Chapter 1 Know Thy Enemy. Up on one of the remaining catapults me, Gobber, Astrid, Snoutlout, Fishlegs and the twins Roughnout and Toughnout were listening to Snotlout boast about being able to chop a dragon's legs off with his face. I knew that was impossible, but wasn't going to tell him that because he would do worse to me than chop off my legs with his face. I wasn't really paying much attention to everyone ranting and boasting about slaying dragons and tattoos. But when Gobber mentioned a dragon that can't fly is vulnerable, that's when I perked up. A down dragon is a dead dragon, he quoted. After that I quickly ran down the spiral staircase around the catapult tower, leaving the others behind. I quickly made my way to the forge without incident. As the village screw up, nobody paid me much attention other than trying to keep me out of trouble. Admittedly, they weren't doing a very good job seeing as what I was doing. The only people who even cared what I was doing was Gobber, who just cared whether I was at work on time or not, the other teens who just wanted me out of the competition so they wouldn't have to work around me, and my father, who only wanted to keep me alive because I was my mother's son. I was in the forge making plans to give the dragon a new tail when Gobber showed up. As it was really late, he was surprised to see me here. "What ye doing up so late?" he asked with a tired voice as he doused the hot coals of the forge with water. "I was just, putting in time for all the times I'm late to work," I say, hoping it's a convincing lie. "Well, come off to bed and ye can work as much as ye want tomorrow," he says, poking me in the back with his hook arm. "Okay," I say as I quickly hide the drawings of the dragon and the tail in my back room. I come out and close the hatch for orders and walk out. Gobber is waiting. "I want ye to get a good night's sleep because tomorrow you will be fighting a sneaky dragon in the ring and ye can't be sleeping on the job," he says while poking me in the stomach when he says you. I listen to Gobber and go up to my house and go to bed. Tomorrow comes and wouldn't you know I'm up before everyone else, carrying a huge basket of fish to the cove where the dragon is. Before I went to bed last night I decided to name the dragon Toothless since he has those weird retractable teeth. I dump the contents of the basket on the ground and walk away to sit on a nearby rock and continue planning how to give him his tail back. As I'm jotting down notes about how the mechanism would need to work, I hear a strange growl combined with a screech. I look over at Toothless. He is on his hind legs rearing up over the pile of fish and starts to back away while growling and screeching. I run over and learn the cause of the problem is an eel in the pile. I quickly grab it and throw it away from the pile and wipe my hand on my bearskin vest. I then spread out the fish to show there aren't any other offending eels in the pile. After spending a bit more time with Toothless, I head down to dragon training. I walk into the ring ignoring all the insults from the others. And Gobber hands each of us a pail of water. Gobber once again simply opens the gate before telling us anything other than, "Today is all about teamwork." The arena immediately fills with smoke as Gobber says, "Now a wet dragon head can't light its fire, the hideous zipply back is extra tricky. One head breathes gas, the other head lights it." He follows up with, "Your job is to know which is which." The gas ended up splitting us each into 3 groups of 2. Me and Fishlegs were on the left, Snotlout and Toughnout in the middle, and Roughnout and Astrid on the right. Fishlegs was muttering loudly about crushing and ambush and venom and digestion, which made it very hard to concentrate, so I snapped at him. Then I heard Snotlout and Toughnout saying something about butts and dragons, and I heard 2 splashes of water. I didn't have the time or the care to try and figure out what they were saying. Then I heard 2 people being knocked to the ground, a bucket being thrown, and then I heard a helmet bounce on the ground and Toughnout screaming. Then I heard 2 more people falling and the quick scream from Roughnout and Astrid and another splash of water, then Toughnout shouting about being hurt and rushing out of the fog, trampling his sister and running past us. Then the fog cleared enough for me and Fishlegs to see that Snotlout, Roughnout and Astrid were all on the ground with the buckets empty. Then a green head and very long neck came out of the fog like a snake, growling and sniffing towards Fishlegs as he jumped back in fear a few times. About half his bucket was emptied onto the arena floor before he even threw the water at it. It then doused him in gas as Gobber shouted, "Fishlegs!" I was too busy watching the gas head that I forgot about the igniting head as it growled from right next to me, making me jump back. I was now the only person with a bucket of water, and had to make sure I doused the correct head. It sparked a few times but not close enough to the gas to ignite it. Then Gobber said, "Now hiccup." Then I threw the water at it but didn't even come close to wetting it, let alone drenching it. The gas had pretty much dissipated by this point, but it lunged forward with its wings out as a threatening motion as I jump back and fall on my back as Gobber runs forward yelling, "Hiccup! Then Astrid, Snotlout and Gobber ran forward. Astrid and Snotlout grabbed one head and pinned it to the ground while Gobber grabbed the other. They got it back inside with the help of Fishlegs, who closed the gate. Snotlout walks up to me as I'm getting up off the ground and shoves me back down. "You nearly got all of us killed, useless." "No, I didn't," I say firmly. "We all failed. You and Toughnut threw your water at the girls, Roughnut threw her water at you, and none of you were paying attention. Fishlegs threw it at the wrong head and I couldn't throw high enough," I say. Astrid glares at me when I say she wasn't paying attention. I then walk out of the arena. Chapter 2: Lessons in Flying, Potatoes and Planets. Later that night I ignored Gobber's advice to get some sleep and once again left the house and headed for the forge. It was dark out and once again nobody paid me any mind even though I was sneaking around. Then Gobber found me. "What are you doing up again?" he says, stressing the O in you and the GA in again. I just had to go to the bathroom," I say nervously, as I didn't want him to know I was heading for the forge. Gobber misinterpreted my nervousness and my sneaking around. He says, looking embarrassed and self-conscious. "I've got an extra pair of undies for you, but I doubt they'll fit," he whispers, gesturing to his white stomach. My eyes go wide at the mental image. "Oh no 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 no, I'm fine, really I'm okay," I say, feeling very disgusted. "Okay then, I'll leave you to it then," he says very uncomfortably. And he walks away, leaving me to head to the bathroom for a while to prove my story. I then go down to the forge and finally finish Toothless Tail and go to my house and into my bed. The next morning I find a smaller pair of Gobber's undies at my doorstep. I pick them up and carry them back up to Gobber's house and leave them hanging on his door handle. I then go to the forge to pick up Toothless' new tail and go and get another basket of fish and head to the cove. When I get there I dump the basket and make sure there aren't any eels in it, then I carry the tail around behind Toothless and strap it on. After several failed attempts to hold down his tail with my hands, I end up sitting on it to get it to be still as I am strapping the straps around his tail. I realize the flap doesn't stay open, so I try fiddling with it to see if I can get it to stay open. I then get launched into the air hanging from a crippled dragon's tail. The flap snaps shut with how fast Toothless is flying, so me being me, having no care for my own safety, I let go and grab the prosthetic fin and hold it out to try and match Toothless' other fin. It immediately helps us level out. I then look up, which for me hanging upside down from Toothless' tail is parallel to the ground, and see we are headed away from the cove, so I force us to turn by turning the fin. Toothless gives a small roar as I do so, and then I see water below for a split second, then him swimming up out of the water as I watch Toothless fall down into the water. Later that night I went down to the leatherworking shop past the forge. Because Gobber is in the forge I rush past when he isn't looking. While there I realize I have no idea how to make a dragon saddle out of leather. So I decide to go to the forge, sneak in, grab my books and papers and my charcoal pencil and sneak back out. I get to the forge to see light from the fire. So Gobber is still here? I ask to no one in particular. "Yep," says Toughnut from right beside me. "Whoa. What are you doing giving me a heart attack, Tough?" I say in surprise. "What are you doing, H?" I say, very confused. "You know the first letter of your name is your nickname. If it's only one letter it's not really a name though," I say, still very confused. "Oh whatever. Anyway, I need your help for a prank." "You in?" he asks. "You am." He cuts me off. "Great, see you up at the Horfresen's house tomorrow morning," he says as he walks away without waiting for my actual answer. I then turn to the forge and see that the light from the fire has died down. I go in quietly and slowly open the door to my back room and see Gobber looking at all the pages on my desk, all the ones with Toothless on them and even a few with a prosthetic tail and a saddle blueprint. I quietly close the door and sit on the side of the forge's main building in a small alleyway waiting for Gobber to leave. I wake up the next morning to Toughnut standing over me. He leans down and whispers, "Come on." "Where?" I whisper back, not even realizing it. "You'll see," he whispers. "Why are we whispering?" I ask. "Oh, I was just whispering because you were," he says normally. "But you spoke first." I say. "Oh, apple, apple," he says, pronouncing both Ps the second time. "That's not even a figure of speech." I say, exasperated. "Sure it is, H. Some people say tomato, some say tomato, some say patat. Do not say the name of the forbidden vegetable that no one dares name. Ruffnut interrupts as she walks up. If no one dares name it, why is it named the forbidden vegetable that no one dares name? I ask, making air quotes with my fingers. Before Ruffnut can clobber me with the mace she has over her shoulder, Toughnut steps in. Because it is not given a name, it is instead given a title, he says. However, there are those that would destroy our whole planet just to name a vegetable, he says, leaning in conspiraciously. Okay, wait a second, what is a planet? I ask. Ruffnut care to explain? Tough asks his sister. Sure, pretty much, it's a big sphere in a place filled with nothing. One of these planets is a place called Earth and we are on it, she says very quickly and sure of herself. How can a place be filled with nothing? I ask. Don't ask. Toughnut says. You saying that just makes me want to ask more. I say, exasperated. Well, in that case do ask. Ruffnut says, like this solves all my life's problems. You ugh. Why am I with you guys? I groan. Because you agreed to help us prank Astrid. Ruff says. When? I ask. When Toughnut asked you, of course, she replies. You mean when he pretty near gave me a heart attack yesterday? I ask. So you do remember, says Toughnut. What do you mean? I ask. Well, Snotlout and Astrid were very angry that you called them out in training the other day. I thought you were asleep in the alley because one of them attacked you. Tough said. Oh, so can we get this prank over with so I can go? I ask. Okay, so you're smart, right, he says, like it's a statement. I say. Good, because we need you to figure out how to make it so when they open the door this mace, Tough gestures at the mace over Ruff's shoulder, either falls or swings and hits whoever opened the door. Most of your pranks aren't harmful. I say. So? Ruff asks. So what changed? I ask. Astrid puts other people down just because they don't meet her standards. I don't want to hurt anyone though. I explain. Well, you won't be. Tough says. Yeah, the mace will, says Ruff, finishing Tough's sentence. Yeah, but I'm still causing someone to be injured. Can we do a different prank? You're no fun. Ruffnut whines. Then they both run off to prank someone else. With them not ranting in my ear, I can now remember why I was at the forge. I then head back down to the forge to gather my books and paper and go to my house to get anything I may need, because now that Gobber has seen my drawings he might connect the dots. Chapter 3: Friends are overrated. At my house my dad is there poking the fire with a metal fire stick and would be curious as to why I wanted to take a bunch of stuff out of my room, so I just go up to my room and stay there. Up there I plan on how to make Toothless saddle. I'm making adjustments on how I would try to make the tail mechanism when my dad comes in. Son, I heard about your outburst in the ring yesterday, he says gruffly. I put the paper face down on my desk and look at him. Okay. I say. You are supposed to respect the other students just like they resp. No. Dad, they don't respect me. You don't know how they treat me. I don't tell you because they threaten me, and of course they won't tell you either. I bet no one told you how Snotlout pushed me to the ground yesterday after training had ended, or how no one stood up for me. I exclaim. That doesn't give you a right to be disrespectful, he says with a poker face. So then what gives them the right to be 100 times more disrespectful to me? I ask pleadingly. This conversation is over, he says. Oh, so that's it. I'm allowed to be shamed and disrespected by everyone on this island, but as soon as I grow a bit of a backbone you won't let me defend myself. I say in a complete deadpan. Stoic continues to walk down the stairs. How are people going to respect me, if I'm not allowed to respect myself? I shout down the stairs. I go to bed and fall asleep before I can start crying. The next morning I wake up and walk downstairs. My dad is in his big armchair facing the fireplace drinking mead. I simply walk past him and out the door I walk down to the training ring and just sit in the ironically named stands watching as Gobber trains the other students to fight the terrible terror. I watch as Toughnut has his nose gnawed on by the tiny dragon the second it comes out of the cage. I watch as he runs around screaming about it hurting. All the other people in the stands, which aren't many, either laugh or cheer at how the dragon attacks him. I recognize a few people I know, like Henrik, Astrid's father. I'm once again the odd one out as I'm thinking about everything and not really paying attention to the fight. Just thinking how I can get access to the leatherworking shop so I can make Toothless saddle. I'm shocked back to the fight by a lot of people cringing away and making pain sounds as Astrid kicks Tough Nut to the ground and drops the hilt of her axe on his nose as the terrible terror scampers down the neck of his shirt. Astrid tries to kick the small dragon through his shirt and the small dragon again dodges her attack, so she ends up kicking his ribs. Now the dragon knows it is being hunted by her and starts to scamper all over Tough Nut's chest, stomach and back, tickling him, making him squirm. In his squirming his legs connect with Astrid's, knocking her to the ground. As he is still squirming, the dragon wiggles its way out the back of his shirt. Astrid knocks it out by hitting it in the head with the flat head of her axe. Then she walks over to Tough Nut, who is getting to his feet. She walks over him and punches him so hard he gets knocked out, still standing, and quickly falls to his side. Rough Nut runs at Astrid swinging a mace. Astrid brandishes her axe dangerously. Gobber quickly steps between them, stopping them from killing each other. Rough Nut drops the mace and walks back to her brother. Astrid puts her axe on her back and walks out the ring. A few people congratulate her, but as I'm far enough away the people around me talk about how her actions were uncalled for. I stand up and walk to the gate of the ring and walk down. Once there, Gobber berates me about not showing up for dragon training. I ignore it and walk over to an angry Rough Nut and a half-concussed Tough Nut. I help him up and let him lean on my left shoulder as I ask Rough Nut, "Want to get him home?" "Yes please," she says, seething as she puts her arm under his right shoulder. Most of the walk back to the Thorston house is silent. When we are almost there, Rough Nut turns to me and asks, "Why are you helping us?" she says with a puzzled look on her face. "Well, Astrid didn't treat you guys right," I say. "Or do you not want help?" "From Hiccup the useless," I say mockingly, striking a pose while supporting Tough Nut. "Hua hua." Tough Nut laughs disorientedly. "No, we were never nice to you," she says, looking down. It's fine, no one was nice to me anyway," I say. "That's kinda sad. You know, we are the pranksters of the village and even we have friends." Friends are overrated," I deadpan. "Well then, if friends are overrated, what do you want to call us?" she says. I'm completely taken aback by this. "You'd be friends with me?" I say, surprised. "Well, not friends if they're overrated, but something similar, I guess. How about close acquaintances?" I say as I help Rough Nut carry Tough up the 3 steps to their door, and then I take his weight as Rough lets go of him and opens the door. "Do you need help bringing him inside?" "Sure," she says. I help her carry her brother through the door, and the first thing my eye see is a yak just standing there in the back of the room staring directly at me. Do I even want to ask?" I say. "Oh yeah, that's our yak. Tough once asked for a stuffed animal doll and our grandparents thought we wanted an actual animal stuffed, so they killed a yak and stuffed it and gave it to us. See, you're getting it. If you ask, you don't want to ask after," she says with a grin. "You guys are ridiculous," I say jokingly. We set Tough down in his bed. Then as I'm about to leave, Rough's mother comes down the stairs. "Rough Nut, Eugene Thorston, who is this?" she says angrily. "This is Hiccup," she replies simply. "What did I say about you hanging out with boys that were not your relatives?" she says as if I'm not even in the room. No, it's nothing like that," I say in unison with Rough, who shouts, "What do you think I'm doing, Mom?" "Well then, what is going on here?" her mother asks angrily. Before Rough could answer, I told her mother about what happened at the ring and how I helped Rough carry Tough back here. "Thank you for being so kind. Come sit," and she grabs me by the shoulder and steers me towards the table and makes me sit. I look towards Rough, who merely mouths the words, "Just do it." So I sit down and wait for something to happen. Her mother is opening cupboards and pulling out bowls. She pulls out 5 and fills them with broth from a small pot above the fireplace. She sets one bowl in front of me and the others she places around the rest of the table. Rough Nut grabs a seat as far from me as possible, and I understand why. This seat, however, happens to be the one directly across from me. Her mother sits at one end of the table and I assume her father sits at the other end. I am unsure if her father will come to eat, and I don't know if Tough will wake up to eat. Having learned manners from my father trying to teach me to be chief for years, I asked Rough's mother what her name was. "Tindra Thorston, and thank you for being so polite." She turns to Rough Nut. "Knowing what I do now, I would be happy to hear that you two are together." Mom, she exclaims, you're embarrassing me. And we aren't friends, she says. You aren't, she asks. No, we are close acquaintances, she says, looking at me. Chapter 4 Proposal. After spending some more time at the Thorston house, I left and went home and went to bed. I woke up the next morning and ate porridge for breakfast and was about to skip training again, but found Gobber at my door. Ye weren't at training yesterday, he says. Ya just tried to avoid the abuse for the day. I say. Well, if they bother you, let me know, he says, smiling. Okay, I say, and then mumble, not gonna change much. However, he didn't hear me. I walked down to the ring and walked in. Everyone was there except Tough Nut. Snotlout walks up and points in my face, saying, "Thought you ditched us. Why, did you need me?" I reply. His reply was less verbal and more physical. I rubbed my chin where he punched me. Ruff walks up and grabs him by the ear and drags him away and whispers something in his ear. His face turned pale and he immediately stopped whining and didn't talk to me or approach me for the rest of the day. Gobber then had us line up facing one of the walls. Rough Nut made a point of standing next to me, and Snotlout and Astrid made a point of standing as far away as possible. With Tough absent, that leaves only Fish Legs as a buffer between us. The class was kind of separating into two groups, those who hated Hiccup and those who liked him. And I felt kind of bad for him because he wasn't a part of either. Gobber was talking about his lesson, and as I wanted to talk to Ruff, I threw the whole lesson off the rails by asking, "Gobber, can you tell us about the Bonenapper dragon?" He immediately stops teaching and waits for dramatic effect and starts telling a really long and exaggerated tale of him being hunted by a Bonenapper dragon that I had heard many times during my time as his apprentice. I'm smiling, and then I look past Rough Nut to my right and see Fish Legs craning his head forward to look at me, and behind him is Snotlout also craning his head forward to look past Fish Legs to look at me, and after him is Astrid craning her head forward to look past both of them. Fish Legs and Snotlout's mouths are hanging open and Astrid is glaring at me. My smile falters and Ruff notices. "Hey, get that smile back on your face, you did something awesome, you should be happy," she says. It doesn't feel so awesome," I say. "What do you mean? You just got us out of one of Gobber's boring lessons," she exclaims. "Well, Gobber's just going to give us the same lecture he had planned for today. Tomorrow I didn't get us out of it, I just postponed it. You sell yourself short too much, you know that." "What do you mean? I'm 5'1", I reply jokingly. She laughs at that. "I was wondering, what did you say to Snotlout that made him shut up?" I ask. "Oh, I told him if he doesn't stop bothering you, I will pants his dad in public and make it seem like it was his doing." "You can do that?" I ask, surprised. "Hiccup, this is me we're talking about. I can do anything, except have a boyfriend," she says, smiling. "Well, it's a good thing I'm simply a close acquaintance," I say, matching her smile. After a while we all left the ring, having learned nothing. All me and Ruff did was talk. I asked how Tough was and asked if he had woken up after I left yesterday. She asked about my work in the forge, and before we knew it everyone was getting up and leaving. After training I went to the Thorston house with Ruff to check on Tough Nut. Then after that I brought Toothless a basket of fish, as I still didn't have a saddle or a way to let him keep the fin of his tail open. I just played with him. The next day I woke up to knocking on my door and went downstairs still half asleep and opened the door and had a fish thrown in my face, and then stepped back in surprise right onto two more fish and my feet flew out from under me. I got up realizing that I had forgotten that my friends were Burke's #1 pranksters, and got up, cleaned up the fish and ate breakfast. The rest of that day and the next 3 days were uneventful, other than I was pranked another 2 times. I was in the forge that day with a normal sword that no one wanted and knew exactly what to do with it. The next day I had Tough bring the stuffed yak out of their house and hide behind the forge, where we sat and practiced our plan. The next day I was in the Thorston house and the plan was set. The yak was back in its place and I walked past the table behind Rough Nut, who was facing the stairs yelling to her mom about something. I then got to one knee and held the sword I had brought with me laid on both my hands and looked up at her. She turned around and stopped and looked at me as I said, "Rough Nut Thorston, if you will, I would like to give you this sword in exchange for your hand in marriage," I said. I then held the sword in its scabbard up to her. She grabbed it and slowly pulled the scabbard off. As she did this, Tough Nut pushed the head and neck off of the stuffed yak and leaped out, and me and him shouted Lokadi as she read the word Lokadi that was inscribed on the sword blade. She started laughing and crying. I thought you actually meant it and was very confused since we were never even dating. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. Her mother came downstairs wondering what was going on. She came down so a beheaded stuffed yak and Ruff still holding the sword sitting in a chair laughing and crying at the same time and me and Tuff laughing and high-fiving. Why is Ruff crying? She asked defensively. Me and H pranked her. Tuff said simply. Who is? She stopped talking as Tuff pointed at me with a bored look on his face. Why is Stan beheaded? All part of the prank. Tuff says. Wait, the yak's name is Stan? I ask. Yep. Tuff says cheerfully. After that we all went to the ring and this time Gobber had us help set up tomorrow's lesson, so we got to work picking up large wooden walls and standing them up and arranging them into a maze. We once again separated into our groups of hiccup haters and non-hiccup haters. It was really hard work since neither me nor Ruff and Tuff were very strong. In 1 hour we had put up 2 walls while Astrid, Snotlout and Fishlegs put up 4. I looked at the wall to see if there was a trick to get it to work. When I saw a small loop at the top, I looked up at all the other walls and every single one had it. This gave me an idea. I ran out of the ring and went to the docks where I found a rope that was 6.5 meters long and bundled it up in my arms and ran back to the ring. I was stumbling around as I was running up a hill with 6.5 meters of rope in my arms and then running down the other side of the hill, all while dodging people and small stones that I may trip on. I finally made it to the ring where I could hear Snotlout complaining about me ditching class. I walk into the ring with the bundle still in my arms and a loop of it wrapped around my ankle, making it hard to walk. I make my way over to Ruff and Tuff. I drop the bundle and Ruff helps me untangle myself. Then I get Tuff to grab one end and I grab the other. We straightened it out and I walked over to the wall we were trying to lift and find the loop on the top of it. I pass my end of the rope through it and tie a knot around the metal loop. I then walk back to Tuff, who is still holding the rope. I then tell him to stand at the part of the wall that needs to stand on the floor. Then I gesture for Ruff to come and grab the rope. I tell them to pull back and the wall started to stand up. By the end of the next hour we had finished another 10 walls while the others had done 5. The others were getting jealous, so when we were pulling another wall up, Snotlout came and cut the rope. Because we were all pulling as hard as we could on the formerly taut rope, when Snotlout cut it we all fell backwards as the walls were 5 meters tall and the rope was only slightly longer than that. We were really close to the wall when it fell. It was about to crush us, then it stopped. I looked up to see my dad there holding the thing up on his shoulders and his arms. He simply said, Snotlout, Ruff and Tuff, get out of here. Snotlout compiled. The twins however did not. With all due respect, Chief, no. Ruff said defiantly. Fine, he says gruffly. Hiccup, you almost killed yourself, Snotlout and the twins. He said. I did. I exclaim. Did you not see Snotlout cut the rope? I explode. Yes, but what you did was still dangerous. Not really, sir. We lifted 10 of these walls this way and none of them faltered except for when Snotlout interfered with this one. Tuff says. You should have been more cautious, he says. We didn't expect to be sabotaged by one of our own classmates. Ruff says. He isn't just your classmate but is also my new heir. He says angrily. And you will respect him, he finishes. We all scamper out from under the large wall to see Snotlout grinning like he just became chief, which he kind of just did. Stoic walks away out of the ring. Gobber looks at us and says. Hey, ye go on home, I'll do the rest of them. For once I'm the first one out of the ring. Chapter 5: Cracking axes, slamming doors and flipping tables. I didn't go home, instead I went to see Toothless in the cove. I didn't bring him any fish as I came straight here from the ring. Over the last few days I had been stealing small amounts of leather and sewing it together to form a saddle. It was all here and I was half done, so I continued to sew and watched Toothless chase a rabbit around the cove. After a while of sewing I put my stuff in the bushes and pulled out my journal and started writing the events of the day. After a while I drifted off to sleep. Later I woke up to a rustling of leaves. I look up and don't see anyone, so I went back to writing and feel a presence over my shoulder that I assume is Toothless. I continue writing and after a minute look up over my shoulder. I'm surprised to see Ruff Nut and dropped my pencil. Oh my, Thor, I say and calm down once I realize it's her. She just looks at my journal for a minute and then sits down. She gestures for me to give her the book, so I do. So she grabs the charcoal pencil I had dropped and writes in the book without my consent. As I try to grab the book, she holds it away and continues writing, then she passes it back. I look at what she wrote. She had written, "I bet the whole village would burn within 5 minutes of him, Snotlout, being chief." Tough Nut then drops out of a tree in front of us and sits cross-legged on the rock in front of us. This isn't the first time you've been displaced as heir. It happens in many fanfictions. What is fanfiction? I deadpan. Oh, just stories that people in the future write about random characters that they don't have the rights to, and usually is very historically inaccurate, she says, smiling, looking at me. I look at her with not even a hint of a smile on my face. Wow, he really is down in the dumps, Tough says. Do you want to prank your dad or Snotlout today? Ruff asks. Yeah, that might make you less depressed. Tough says enthusiastically. No thanks, I say. What about going to work in the forge? You love doing that. Ruff asks. Not today. I say simply. Look, you can't stay here moping. Tough says. I thought you were against being chief anyway. Ruff asks. It's not that he displaced me from being chief, it's how he did it. I said sadly. You're right, I don't want to be chief, but just deciding right then and there that I wasn't going to be chief of this tribe, that I wouldn't be good enough, that's what hurt me. I continue. Just don't do anything crazy, she says. Ruff, this is me, we are talking about everything I do is crazy. I say, finally smiling. The next day Gobber meets me at the entrance to the ring. If ye want to skip today's class, I won't be mad, he says. Nah, I'll stay. Gobber looked very surprised at that. Are you sure you want to stay after what happened yesterday? He asked. Yeah, if I'm gonna be abused and ridiculed, I'd rather be there to even try to defend myself, I said. I walked in and stood with Ruff and Tough to my left and Fishlegs to my right and Snotlout and Astrid past him. We were all facing the entrance to the maze. Beside us there was a board of weapons with everything from a knife to a hammer hanging on it. We all grabbed our weapon of choice except Ruff, Nut and Astrid, who already had their weapons, Astrid with her usual double-sided axe and Ruff with the Lokidee sword. Tough and Snotlout grabbed maces. Fishlegs grabbed a hammer. And me, I grabbed a small one-sided axe that I could barely carry. Then we all got shields. Then Gobber let out the deadly nadder. Me, Ruff and Tough tried to stay together, but I was eventually separated from them and ended up finding Snotlout and Astrid. Snotlout wasn't happy about me finding them, and Astrid wasn't much better. Astrid and Snotlout did a somersault with their shield to get past the deadly nadder. It did not see them, but then I tried and fell over. The clang of my shield on the ground alerted the nadder to my presence. It whirled around and I quickly got up and ran in the opposite direction from Snotlout and Astrid and ran into Fishlegs and fell over. The nadder shot a few spines at us, but Fishlegs used his shield to protect us. He picked me up off the ground and pushed me away from the nadder. The nadder tried to shoot more spines that again impaled themselves in his shield. Then it shot a burst of fire that he dodged by moving to the side against the wooden wall. Then he quickly ducked down and crawled into the nadder's blind spot right in front of its nose. Then he hit it with the hammer in the left side of its head so hard that its head bounced off the wall on the left side of Fishlegs. Then it slumped over unconscious. We then helped Gobber put it back in its cage and then took all the walls down and put them in the storage area for the arena. I made the mistake of looking up into the stands and seeing my father standing there looking with approval at everyone but me. Then he looks at me and the grin he had fades to disappointment. Useless, stop daydreaming and get my axe sharpened, Astrid yells at me. I look at my dad, he simply looks at the axe behind me and then in the direction of the forge and back to me. I grab the axe and carry it to the forge. On my way there Snotlout steps in front of me and pushes me to the ground, causing me to drop the axe on the stone pathway, cracking it. Then while I'm on the ground he stomps on my left leg. It hurts. Alert. Then he grabs the cracked axe and carries it back to the ring, where Astrid is. I get up and run as fast as I can with my injured leg to the Thorston house. Once there I asked Tindra if I could hide there for a while. Where would you like to hide, hun? She asks. Would it be okay if I hid inside Stan? Sure. I'm just getting inside when she asks. May I ask who you're hiding from? Astrid and Snotlout. Mostly Astrid. Why? Snotlout pushed me when I was carrying Astrid's axe to the forge, causing it to fall out of my hands and break. Now Snotlout is gonna tell her some lie about what happened and pin the blame on me, and she is gonna kill me when she finds me. You said when she says. So. You didn't say if she finds me. Why do you say that? Because I can't hide from her forever. She is the greatest hunter on this island. If she wanted to find someone, she'll do it. What if you don't hide from her? She'd kill me. What if you had someone to protect you, like your father? Even if I had the entire Burke Guard, which I don't. She would find a way. Eesh, I groan as I hit my leg on part of the yak, trying to wiggle in. Is something wrong? She asks. No, it's fine, I lie. Oh my, your leg, she exclaims. Is it that bad? I ask. Hiccup, it's broken, she says. We gotta get that fixed up right away, she says with urgency in her voice. I can't. Astrid and Snotlout will find me and will do a lot more than break one of my legs. If you are crippled, you won't be able to defend yourself or run away, she says convincingly. If I leave this house, then I'm dead anyway. I reply. At this point I've given up trying to fit inside Stan. Fine, she says. Then she turns to the stairs and shouts. Ivan, get down here. I hear stomping as one of the largest people I've ever seen, second only to my father, come walking down the stairs as swift and steady as Astrid is with an axe. I want you to watch over Hiccup, make sure nothing happens to him. Okay. She then starts to walk out of the house, but before she leaves she turns and says. You'll be safe with him. I lie down on a small bed they have for guests in the living room. Nothing happens, but I get to learn that he is the father of Rough and Tough and that he is a fisherman. He has strong muscles and quick reflexes from catching fish and is also quick on his feet. After a while of talking, the door slams open and we both look up. Ivan stands in a battle stance in front of me, but it's just Gothai and Tindra who walk in. Gothai starts to set my broken leg, then the door slams open again and everyone looks at it. Ivan is still on edge. You never came back to the ring. Tough says as Rough says we looked all over the town for you. Then Gobber walks in behind them. He looks sad. I thought I told ye to let me know if they were bothering you. Yeah, well, when I can barely make it here, there is no way I'm gonna go further to go to the same place my soon-to-be killer is. Ye got that right. The lass looked like she was gonna strangle Snotlout just for telling her. Da, I'm dead. I say, mimicking a trumpet. No, you aren't. If she kills the heir to the chief, she'll be labeled as a traitor. Ivan says. You're about that. I say, rubbing my neck and looking down. Mom, Dad, come upstairs, I'll explain, says Rough. Going up the stairs, she gives me a sympathetic smile. Gothai is still bracing my leg when there is another knock on the door. Tough grabs a spear and opens the door, ready to stab anyone who isn't welcome. Fishlegs is standing at the door. I heard what Snotlout told Astrid. I don't think it's true, so what really happened? And are you okay? I'm fine. Ow. I exclaim when Gothai knocks me in the head with her staff. Fine. I've been better. I say, rolling my eyes. I actually don't know what Snotlout told Astrid. Well, he said that you were walking to the forge and that he was on the way there to get something for Gobber, and that he saw you smash the axe head on the ground 20 times and then tried to cut the metal of the night torches with it, resulting in how badly damaged it was, he said. None of that is true. What happened was I was carrying it to the forge and Snotlout stepped in front of me and pushed me to the ground. I dropped the axe in surprise and it hit the stone pathway, cracking it. Then he stomped on my leg. I gestured to my leg, then he picked up the axe and went back to the ring. When he brought it into the ring, it was shattered beyond repair. Gobber said. Well, I'm dead. I say sarcastically. Ivan and Tindra walk down the stairs. Stoic is gonna have a piece of my mind, she shouts, storming out of the house and presumably towards mine. I'm gonna try and appease Astrid with a new axe, says Gobber, walking out the house. Gothai is still fixing my leg late into the night. I wake up early in the morning to Ivan sitting in a chair next to the bed. You should be asleep, he says without taking his sight off the door. You should be too. I'm watching over you, he replied. I'm thankful for you protecting me, but I don't want you to suffer because of it. Pfff, he scoffs. I'm a fisherman and we sail for days at a time with very little sleep. I'll be fine, he says. Knowing you're awake, I can't sleep. Why don't you tell me some fishing tales? All right, he sighs. After a minute of gathering his thoughts, he launches into a tale of being in a storm that rocked the boat as if it was as small as a newborn baby in a full bath. The waves were washing over the boat and how they could barely buck it fast enough, he tells me. The way he told it made it feel like I was on the boat with them, bucketing as fast as possible. One of the sailors drowned while on the deck of the boat. He told the story in a way that I thought only my grandfather old Wrinkly could. Halfway through another tale, the door is opened and in comes Astrid and Snotlout. Astrid is holding a dagger and Snotlout has a sword. Astrid approaches. "Get out of my way," she says to Ivan dangerously. Ivan shifts to block her from me even more. Astrid lunges at me, but Ivan grabs her in one of his huge hands and pins her to the wall with his right hand. Astrid dropped her dagger. Then while Astrid is screaming and shrieking, Snotlout charges. Ivan just backhands him with his left hand so hard he hits the table and flips it onto its side. Ruff, Tuff and Tindra wake up from all the racket. Ruff comes out of her room to see Astrid pinned to the wall, thrashing, screaming and shrieking, and Snotlout rubbing the back of his head. She walks over to him and picks him up off the floor and none too gently drags him to the basement, where we can barely hear her yelling at him over the sound of Astrid yelling. Tuff walks out of his room, looks at the screaming Astrid and walks back into his room. He comes out with a small brown rag that I recognize that he stuffs in Astrid's mouth. She immediately stops screaming and starts gagging. "What's wrong with her?" Ivan asks. "Oh, it's either the smell or the taste. That rag I stole from the forge yesterday. I don't know what they are used for. I shudder knowing what they are used for." "Tuff, come here," I say. He comes. "If I tell you what those are for, you have to promise never to gag me with them, okay?" I whisper very seriously. "Okay. You know how the forge can get really hot, right? And how when you get too hot you start to sweat? Well, those are the rags Gobber uses to wipe his sweat with when he's in the forge." I whisper. "You ugh, just that much better for pranks though," he says, cringing. "Remember your promise," I say. Tindra comes down the stairs and says, "I'll get the chief," and leaves. Ivan let go of Astrid after she had calmed down a bit, but as soon as she was free she tried to attack me, so Ivan grabbed her and tied her to a chair with rope that Tuffnut brought. After a few minutes I tell Tuff to take the rag out of Astrid's mouth. She starts shouting, so he puts it back in. "Astrid, I just want to explain." "Okay." "Tuff, take out the rag." He takes the rag out of her mouth and she doesn't make a sound, she just glares at me. I give her a minute to calm down, but before I say anything she says, "You destroyed my axe," she says matter-of-factly. "You boy, if you knew the truth," says Tuff. "Well then tell me what happened, useless," she says, her words dripping with sarcasm. "I was carrying your axe to the forge to be sharpened as you asked," I said. But Snotlout stepped in front of me and pushed me to the ground, causing me to drop the axe on the stone pathway, causing it to crack. She opened her mouth to speak, but I interrupted her. "How it got in the condition Snotlout brought it to you in, I have no idea." She closes her mouth. After pushing me to the ground he stomped on my left leg, picked up the cracked axe and walked away. "I don't believe you," she says. "How would you explain my broken left leg then?" I ask, my voice rising slightly. "You could have injured yourself to make your story more plausible." "Okay fine, how about me maniacally destroying your axe? Do you think I'm even strong enough to lift it, let alone smash it into the ground 20 times and once into the night torches, and still have enough strength to break my own leg?" I ask incredulously. "You lifted 10 of those wooden walls in an hour with nothing but a rope," she says. "No, Rough and Tough helped," I retort. "Either way my axe is destroyed because you were either too clumsy or are crazy and have a death wish," she says menacingly. The door slams open, cutting off what I was gonna say. Stoic walks in, picks up a knife and cuts the ropes tying Astrid to the chair. "Leave Astrid," he says. "No sir, I want compensation for my axe." "And you will get it," he says normally. "Now leave," he roars. She steps out the door. "You destroyed a valuable family heirloom," he says. "No I didn't," I plead. "Yes you did, whether by accident or not you did," he roars. "Of all the people who should believe me, you are the only one that doesn't," I say. "I believe what is true," he says. "Well then take the time to figure out what is true," I exclaim. "He slapped me. He slapped me. He slapped me. He slapped me." That one line spun around in my head just like how my head spun around on my neck. "You accuse me of lying," he shouts. "No. But of being fooled by a lie," says Trinder from the doorway. "Are you calling your chief a fool?" he explodes. "No, but you are believing the lie of your nephew over the truth of your best friend and your only son," says Ivan firmly. "Why are you here?" Stoic says. "To protect your own son from you," he says pointedly. "Leave," Stoic says firmly. "No," says Ivan just as firmly. "I told you to leave," says Stoic dangerously. "You can't do that," says Ivan civilly. "I'm the chief, I can do anything I want," he nearly shouts. "You can't kick us out of our own home," Ivan points out. Stoic stops and looks around, realizing he actually can't kick them out of their own house. "Well then, you are all traitors and are banished," he screams. "On what basis?" Fishlegs asks. "On the basis of, Stoic sputters. "On the basis of me being chief," Stoic roars and walks out the house, slamming the door so hard the entire house shakes. Chapter 6: Lies and Secrets Revealed. The next morning I went to the Great Hall with Ivan, Tindra, Rough, Tough, Fishlegs and Gobber. Stoic, Astrid and Snotlout are standing there waiting for us. The elders are arranged in a half circle with 2 chairs empty, my father's chair and Gobber's. They aren't allowed to judge since they are both involved in the situation. The rest of the elders are there though: Gothai, Spitaloot, Old Wrinkly, Mildew and Henrik. Spitaloot is the first to speak. "Let's hear the true story first." "And what would be the true story, Spitaloot?" asks Henrik. "Mine," shouts Snotlout. "Speak," says Old Wrinkly. "Well, Hiccup nearly burned down the village last week and I was passing one of the burned hoos." "That's not important," says Henrik says firmly. "You're not going to support your own daughter," says Snotlout. "As her elder I will act in fairness as we are supposed to," he says glancing at Spitaloot. "And will support my daughter's words if I feel she is right. Your tale has nothing to do with my daughter, so leave her out of it until her role is important." "Fine." I was walking towards the forge to get something for Gobber after the fight with the deadly Nada. Gobber leaned toward me and whispered, "I never sent him to get anything." When I see Hiccup holding the axe Astrid had asked him to have sharpened, then he raises it up and brings it down on the stone ground. I couldn't count exactly how many times, but it was at least a dozen. After that he swung the axe at one of the night torches. By this point the axe was nothing more than a stick. I pushed him to the ground, grabbed the handle of the axe and some of the metal shards and carried them back to the ring to give to Astrid and Gobber. Then Astrid starts to speak. "I went to the Thorston house yesterday morning. Snotlout followed me and decided to bring a sword. She said matter-of-factly the only reason I went was I wanted compensation for my axe being broken and heard that Hiccup was at the Thorston house. I carried no weapon." None of our group said anything or protested as it was their turn to speak, but I did see a frown flit across Henrik's face, but no one else saw this. I whispered to Gobber that she had indeed had a dagger with her. Gothai saw me whispering and smacked the table for silence and started writing in the sand in front of her. Her translator translated. "Hiccup horrendous haddock the third, do you have something to say?" he said. "I will wait until it is our turn to speak unless you would like me to speak now," I responded confidently. Gothai simply nodded and sat back down, but I could tell that my patience and self-control had already won myself favor in the eyes of Gothai, Old Wrinkly and Henrik. "Please continue," said Spitaloot. I went in and was confronted by Ivan. I asked if I could speak with Hiccup, who was in a bed behind him. I was denied this request. I admit I tried to lunge past him so I could get to Hiccup. However, this was not an attack. I merely wanted to see his face and his eyes when he spoke so he could not lie to me. I was grabbed by Ivan, who roughly pinned me to the wall and held me hostage. Then Snotlout ran to attack Ivan with the sword he had brought, but Ivan simply threw him into the table. This conflict woke up the rest of the Thorston house. After this I screamed and thrashed, trying to escape but could not. Eventually Toughnut gagged me with a rag and I was then tied to a chair. Hiccup tortured me, but not with any weapon but with his words. After a while of that, Stoic came in, cut me loose and told me to leave. Before Stoic could speak, Spitaloot asked, "Where did Snotlout go after he was thrown into the table?" "I think Roughnut took him into the basement and verbally berated him." "That I did. However, I didn't lay a finger on him except to grab his ear and pull him down the stairs." Rough confirmed. "Is that true, Astrid, that she pulled him by the ear?" Old Wrinkly asked. Yes it is. Astrid confirmed. Stoic, I believe this is where you tell the rest of the events. Gothai's translator translated. Indeed it is, Tindra Thorston came to get me when Snotlout and Astrid showed up I believe. Yes, when I was awoken by the racket I left the house to get you, she confirmed. I told Astrid to leave and after a moment she did. I then spoke with my son, Ivan, Tindra and Fishlegs. They would not obey, so I banished all of them for insubordination. Gobber was not present at the time of banishment, so why is he here? Stoic. Old Wrinkly asked. Gobber supported them, so he threw his lot in with them. Stoic replied. May I ask what order you gave them that they did not obey? Henrik asked. I wanted them to leave so I could talk with my son civilly. Who was present in the room when you banished everyone? When Stoic did not respond, Henrik continued. Stoic. Myself, my son, Ivan, Trinder and Fishlegs were in the room, he said. So the only people that actually had to leave were Hiccup and Fishlegs, and this was only if the Thorstons didn't want them there. Henrik said. Did you want Hiccup and Fishlegs to leave? Old Wrinkly asked Ivan and Trinder. No, said Ivan firmly. The only people who were not welcome were Astrid, Snotlout and Stoic, said Tindra. Is there anything you would like to point out as a lie, a mistake or something they may have forgotten about their side of events? Old Wrinkly asked. Yes, quite a few things, I said. One being the entire tale of how the axe was broken. The only thing true in Snotlout's version of events is that I was headed toward the forge carrying the axe and it being damaged on the stone path. Everything else about that tale is a lie, I state. Tell us your version of events. Henrik said. I was indeed asked by Astrid to take her axe to get sharpened. Nearly everyone in this room can prove this. I did as she asked and picked up the axe and carried it towards the forge. On my way there, Snotlout stepped in front of me and shoved me to the ground, causing me to drop the axe. It hit the stone pathway and cracked. Snotlout proceeded to stomp on my leg hard enough to break it, then picked up the axe and carried it back to the ring to give to Astrid and Gobber. The time between taking the axe from me and bringing to Astrid is unaccounted for by anyone here except Snotlout. Then Gobber spoke up. I also never sent Snotlout to get anything from the forge. If I were to ask anyone to get something from there, it would be Hiccup, since he was already heading there and he knew where things would be. All eyes turned to Snotlout. Henrik asked for a piece of paper and a charcoal pen. I pulled out a page from inside my vest and a charcoal pencil as well and held them out to a guard, who took them and handed them to Henrik. He started writing something down. Snotlout, can you tell us what happened during the time between getting the axe from Hiccup and bringing it to Astrid? Old Wrinkly asked. I tried to fix the axe as I knew that Astrid would kill for damaging her axe, so I tried to fix it, but eventually I realized I couldn't, so I simply brought the pieces to her. He lied. Why did you want to protect Hiccup? Mildew asked, finally speaking. You hate him, so what's the lie? Snotlout, he pressed. You either lied about hating Hiccup or you lied about what you did during that time. Henrik said. He is my cousin, even I don't hate him that much. Snotlout protested. That's not all, I speak up. Stoic says he spoke civilly with me. Instead he shouted and roared like a child. When he didn't get what he wanted, he even slapped me. Something he has never done before. Even when I accidentally destroyed parts of the village, the most I had ever gotten was a big spanking when I was 5, and he once cuffed me in the back of the head when I was 8. That was the worst of my punishment. However, yesterday morning he slapped me hard enough to turn my head as far as it would go. Also, Astrid says she was unarmed when she confronted me in the Thorston house. She was not. She carried a dagger with which she lunged at me with the clear intent on harming me. How do you know her intent? Asked Mildew. She said it herself, a person's intent is in their eyes. She said earlier that she wanted to look at my eyes when she spoke so she could be sure I wasn't lying. This never occurred, but according to her story that was her intent. Her eyes, however, told a different story. Astrid's eyes went wide in fear. From her reaction it seems her intent was harmful towards Hiccup, but this doesn't prove she had a weapon. Gothai's translator translated. Hiccup, can you or anyone with you give evidence of a dagger being present? Any recent scars or slashes in clothing? Spitaloot asked, grinning, knowing we had no evidence to this claim. Everyone was shocked when Henrik said, I can. I woke up to voices yesterday morning, one male that was trying to be quiet but failing, and my daughter's almost silent voice. I heard the sound of a sword being drawn and the boy bragging about the sword. I heard my daughter say we shouldn't bring weapons. However, the boy convinced her. I heard him say, "At least take something. I don't need a dagger to kill Hiccup, but I'll take one anyway." I heard my daughter say. Then I heard the door closing, and sure enough, when I checked, there was a dagger missing from my weapons storage. Everyone turned to a now crying Astrid and an angry Snotlout. Astrid had her arms crossed over her chest and wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Snotlout was shouting about being spied on and how Henrik was a stalker. Then all eyes turned back to Stoic. I may have let my temper get away from me," he said. "That is no excuse to abuse your son." Gobber roared as he rushed my father. It took me, Fish Legs, Rough Nut, Tough Nut, Ivan and Tindra to hold him back. All in favor of Hiccup and company cleared of all charges? Old Wrinkly asked. Gothai nodded, Henrik raised his hand, Old Wrinkly held his hand up, and even Mildew raised his staff. Spitaloot did nothing as he was seething with rage. Old Wrinkly then asked, "Does your party have any reparations?" We all huddled together and talked it over. And came to a conclusion. Both Stoic and Snotlout must shave their heads as a sign of repentance, 1, and Snotlout or the Jorgensens must pay anything and everything for a new axe that me and Gobber will make for Astrid. Astrid must cut her hair short. And we expect a formal written apology by Astrid Horfresen, Snotlout Jorgensen, and from Stoic the Vast. Each of us will get a copy of each apology, and each of you must keep one copy for yourselves. Unless the elders have anything to add, that is all. I say. Then the elders speak amongst themselves and come to a consensus. Stoic will be temporarily removed from chiefly duties for 1 month, and Snotlout and Astrid will not be allowed to have any weapons on them for a month. Because of this, they will be removed from the dragon training program until they are allowed to wield weapons. Henrik says. Who will be chief for the month? Fishlegs asked. The elders all look at me. No, I can't be chief. I exclaim. What do you mean? You're the only person who can fill the role? Ruff asks. Anyone else please? I plead. Gothai just shakes her head. And holds out her hand. Henrik hands her my charcoal pencil. She rubs it on her finger and then walks up to me and gestures for me to kneel. I look to my friends. Ruff is hoping with joy, Tough is grinning, Fishlegs gives me a thumbs up, Tindra gestures to kneel, Ivan nods, and Gobber is smiling. I finally kneel in front of Gothai and she uses the coal to draw the symbol of chief on my forehead. I stand up and everyone starts cheering. Later that day my leg was better, so I asked Ruff and Tough to come with me. I want to show you guys something. I say timidly. Okay, they say in unison. I hope you don't hate me. I mumble. What? Ruff asks. Oh, nothing. I say, averting my eyes. They follow me to the cove. We are all standing in the middle of the cove just next to the little pond. I turn to them. You don't have any weapons on you, do you? Why? Should we? Ruff asks warily. No, that's good. I said nervously. But I want you to promise by your god Loki that you will make no threatening motions or any sudden movements. You am okay, says Tough. Say it. I said, determined. I swear by the god of mischief Loki that I will not make any sudden or threatening movements. Tough says with his hand over his heart. Hiccup, you're scaring me. Rough Nut says nervously. Just trust me. I say, looking at her. She just looks at me eyes wide. Please? I ask. Fine, I promise. All right, thank you. I sigh. I turn away from them and step forward. Toothless, come out please. Nothing happens. What is a toothless? Ruff asks scared. Come on, bud. I say, ignoring Ruff. Hiccup, so help me, I will drown you in that pond if you don't explain what is going on. It's easier to show you. I explain. She grabs my shoulders and spins me around to face her. Hiccup, you need to tell me or I will do worse than break your leg. I see Toothless perched on a branch of a tree above us growling. Ah! Tough Nut yelps. Toothless pounces on Rough Nut, knocking me down, pinning us both to the ground. As he pounced slightly from the side, Ruff's back was to the ground and I was on my side beside her. Using my arm to lever myself as much as possible. I try to push him off. He doesn't move. Toothless. But, she is a friend. He turns his head slightly to look at me instead of glaring and rough. I see Tough pick up a sharp stick behind Toothless. Tough drop the stick. I say. There is a dragon on top of you and my sister, he shouts to me. I don't care. I shout at him. Drop the stick. I say dangerously. He throws it beside him. Now Toothless, she is a friend, now please get off us. I explain. He looks at me questioningly. Toothless, she was afraid, she didn't mean any of it. Oh ho ho. I might break both your legs just because of this, she says threateningly. Not helping. I grit through my teeth. Toothless, just please get off us and I will explain everything. And I mean everything, I say, looking at Ruff. Good. Ruff says. Toothless finally lets us up, but not before growling at Ruff. He starts prowling around the three of us. Ruff Nut grabs me by the shoulders and holds me in front of her, keeping me between her and Toothless. Ruff, you do realize you've broken your promise like 3 times, right? Well, what did you expect? You asked me to swear by the god of mischief and lies that I wouldn't do something. All right, fair point, so this is Toothless. Toothless Ruff Nut, Toothless. Toothless Tough Nut, Toothless. Who is Toothless? Tough asks. The dragon. I thought that was obvious. I said. We knew that. Ruff snaps. What I mean is, how do you have a dragon and why? Tough Nut asks me. Well, you remember that raid when the monstrous nightmare burned the night torch and it fell over? The one where you claimed to have shot down a night fury? Ruff asked. Yes, just over Raven's Point. Guess where we are? I say. They both stop to think about it. Just over Raven's Point. Ruff Nut says, realizing what this meant. So you don't just have a pet dragon, you have the strongest pet dragon there is. Ruff exclaims. Yeah, have you gone flying yet? Tough asked Giddy. No, not yet. When I shot him down, the bowler interrupted his flight, causing him to fall. When he hit the ground, it tore his tail fin off. I gesture to his aggressively thrashing tail. Oh. The poor thing. Ruff exclaims, seeing the missing tail fin. That's not the worst part, he can't fly without it and can't leave this cove. Remember a while back when we were on top of the catapult? I asked. You mean when Tough showed off his tattoo? Ruff says, laughing. Yes, and when Snotlout was bragging about how he would cut off the legs of every dragon he faced. Do you remember what Gobber's reply was? Yeah, he said it's the wings and the tails you really want. If it can't fly, it can't get away. Tough said, doing a mock impression, or Gobber then grew somber as he realized what Gobber said after. A downed dragon is a dead dragon. Ruff finished for him sadly. I walk over to a small bush and pull the branches away from the mini fake bush I made and pull out the prosthetic tail fin and the pieces of the saddle. I made a fin, but I can't get it to stay open. I say, showing them the prosthetic. And I haven't finished the saddle. So what's with the weird name? Tough asks. Well, it turns out the only thing I can do right as a Viking is pick a weird name. I say. But you mind showing them? I ask. Asterisk block asterisk. He opens his mouth to show them his retractable teeth. Whoa, exclaims Tough. That's pretty neat. Ruff says. I look up at the darkening sky. We should be heading back. I say. Are you going to tell anyone about him? Ruff asked. Not yet. I reply. I wanna be sure no one is going to try and kill him first. You know that everyone is going to try. Even if you were still here, you don't have that kind of power. Heck, the chief couldn't hold back a mob of angry villagers. Ruff says. Yeah, I frown. Ruff sees my expression. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking, she says. It's fine, never cared about being chief, remember? I say, putting on a fake smile. Yeah, but I shouldn't have said that, she says. It's fine, we all make mistakes. I reassure her. Tough looks up again. If we are keeping him a secret, then we better leave now. People will soon be looking for us, you specifically, he says. The walk back to the village is silent. I go home to my room and try to go to bed early for once. Chapter 7. You may not be the heir, but you are our chief. Asterisk thunk 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 asterisk. Who is it? I call to the door. It's pretty dark by now. Everyone is in their houses getting ready for bed, so I'm a little surprised and miffed that someone needs me right now. It's Astrid, she calls, hearing her voice. I am no longer miffed, but am still surprised. I get up and go to the door. If it's a chiefly thing, I'd suggest going to the elders, because I have nearly no idea what I'm doing. I say. It's not that, but it is something for the acting chief. She says, her head down. Come on, just because I'm the chief doesn't mean you have to stand lower than me. I say, misinterpreting the reason her head is down. It's not out of respect. She rubs the back of her head where her braid used to be. It's a shame, she finishes. Astrid, lift your head. I say comfortingly. She stubbornly keeps her head lowered. I didn't want to do this. I sigh. Astrid, Horfresen, as your chief, I command you to raise your head. I say in a stern and firm voice. She obeyed. As she is a shield maiden, she was taught to obey her superiors from when she was a kid. Then when she realized what she had done, she glared at me. Look, I'm sorry I did that, but I don't want you to beat yourself up over this. I said. No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done any of what I did. It's all right. No, it's not, she says again, looking at the ground. Astrid, look at me. I say a little firmly. She complies. I just wanted to give this to you in person, she said as she handed me the apology letter. Thank you. I say. I was about to say that was fast, but stopped myself, as that would have come off as rude, and because I saw the bags under her eyes that I had not noticed before. She must have been up all night and day writing this. After that I went inside and fell asleep. The next day was full of me being approached by the people of the village, helping them with their problems. I have the training ring reserved for right now, said one person. No, I did, shouted the man with him. What were you using it for? I had asked them. They both told me they were gonna train in sword fighting. Who were you gonna train with? I had asked them. Both of them told me their partner was unavailable. I pinched the bridge of my nose in annoyance. Both your sparring partners are unavailable, you both have the training ring reserved for the same time, and you both want to train with the sword. What do you think you should do? I asked them, annoyed. They both looked at each other like they had never thought of this. We should fight for usage of the ring, one shouted excitedly. Sure, whatever. I had said, exhausted. Later that day, me, Rough and Tough went to the cove. Each of us carried a basket of fish. The reason we brought so much fish was because I hadn't had much time to come here without being seen. So me, Rough and Tough made up for it with a lot of fish. I showed Toothless that he could trust them because they would be bringing his food for the next month or so. After that I had went to bed, as chiefing is exhausting. Asterisk thunk thunk asterisk. I heard a knock at my window. I look and see both Rough and Tough sitting at my window. I get out of bed and open the window. Is it okay if we come inside? Rough whispers. I look behind me to my closed door. Yeah, just be quiet, okay? I tell them. They both swing their way in through the now open window. We were thinking about Toothless and we want to help with the saddle and tail fin. Tough says. What do you need from us? Rough asks. Well, I need more leather to finish the saddle and have been trying to think of ways to get it. I also need gears and metal to make the tail, but I can't do that until the saddle is finished. So right now I need leather and time. We can get the leather. Tough says. Time will be a problem though. Rough finishes. Yeah, and you guys are also going to have to feed Toothless. We can do that. Rough says. How are you gonna get all that leather and fish? Same way you did. Tough says. I was about to protest when Rough interrupted me. But better, she said confidently. We should be going. You may need time and leather to help Toothless, but you're gonna need sleep to help yourself and your tribe. Rough says as Tough opens the window and hops out. It's not my tribe. I say. For now it is, she says, winks at me and leaps out the window. I passed out on my bed not 10 seconds later. The next day I see a bald Snotlout standing impatiently at my door with the smallest piece of paper I've ever seen. Is this the apology letter? I ask. Yes, he says gruffly. He hands me the paper. I look at it and all it says is the word sorry. He turns around and walks away. I let him leave because, 1, I expected his apology to be like this, and 2, I can't deal with Snotlout first thing in the morning. I get a bowl from the cupboard and make porridge, then I take the bowl of porridge to the porch along with Astrid's apology letter. I still haven't read it as I was busy dealing with those 2 knuckleheads who were fighting over the training ring and other various problems. I sat in a chair and pulled my knees up so that my butt and feet were flat on the chair. I rested the note on my knees and held my bowl in one hand and my spoon in the other. Her letter was much longer, it was a full paragraph, in neat writing with equal spacing, whereas Snotlout's wasn't even a sentence long, had the letters hastily written and unevenly spaced. I started to read Astrid's. Sorry. All I can say is sorry. Looking back now, I don't even know why I hated you so much. It was a shameful and foolish feeling. However, I have learned to respect you. You showed compassion in your reparations and patience when I blatantly lied about many things, and how you rarely lost your temper even when you were at your lowest. I am sorry I was involved in this situation and that you were the victim of it, but I am not sorry that it happened. The village benefited from it, and so did you. You earned friends and family, people that would have joined in on making you the victim had anything gone differently. You have been honest with the entire village, whereas I have not. You may not be the heir, but you are our chief. I hope my future actions can atone for my past actions. Astrid Horfresen. While reading this, I had a few people approach me, however once they saw the intense expression on my face they simply turned and went somewhere else. When I finished, I realized what she said in one part. She said I have been honest with the whole village. More like hiding our most hated enemy as my pet in the forest. Later that day I had put a bit of time in at the forge. Gobber was humming to himself. Then he stopped and looked thoughtful, which usually signaled something awkward. I saw your drawings, he said. Which ones? I asked. He walks into the back room and gets the blueprints for Toothless Tail Fin. I had forgotten that Gobber had seen those. These, he says, handing them to me. I've no idea what they are for. He says, laughing heartily. Thanks. I say. He looks at me expectantly. I wanted my father's approval, so I tried to make something he would like. It's useless. I say. After the word useless, Gobber didn't ask anything else. After that I went to the cove and finished the saddle for Toothless. Now I just needed the tail fin mechanism, which was the hardest part, as I needed the forge without being interrupted by the villagers. After spending about 5 minutes with Toothless, I went back to the village to deal with problems. I was told by Spitaloot that we needed more defenses for the coming raids. I suggested some of my inventions. Spitaloot nearly slapped me for getting I was his chief for the time being. After a few more problems that I fixed, I went to bed. The next day was again uneventful, other than a dozen problems I had to fix. While walking through the village making sure that everything was just fine, Gobber and my dad came walking by. "Ye should come to the mead hall," Gobber told me. "No thanks," I replied. "It'll be fun," he said. "You do need to loosen up a little, son," Dad said. Then they simply grabbed me and brought me to the hall anyway. We all sat at the large table where the prominent people sat. I felt very uncomfortable there, as I hadn't been there since the day after I was born, where Dad presented me to the tribe. I heard this from a very drunk Gobber. Gobber grabs another jug of mead and slides it down the table to me. "Thanks," I say, not really meaning it. My dad notices me not really drinking the mead. "You need to enjoy yourself a little, you can be overly serious, you know," he says. "Yeah, I just don't like mead." "Well, you're not a Viking if you don't like mead," slurred Spitaloot. I was starting to get even more uncomfortable, as I was sitting in a place that was not mine and people were saying I wasn't a Viking if I didn't drink mead. I simply left the mead hall. As I was leaving, I heard whispers from behind me but ignored them. None of the people at the prominent table noticed me leave, as they were too drunk. I tried to open the doors, but as I am a fishbone and the doors are twice as tall as my father and as heavy as Gobber, I couldn't open them. Astrid saw my struggle and walked over and helped me open it. I was about to walk out on my own and let the door close behind me, but then Astrid stepped out with me. Neither of us spoke for a moment. "Those doors are far too big," she said, breaking the awkward silence. "Yeah," I replied. "Snotlout behaving himself?" I asked. "How would I know? she asked angrily. Sorry, that was thoughtless of me, I said. Then she punches me in the arm. Ah, what was that for? For being thoughtless, she said. Then she kissed me. Admittedly it was on the cheek, but it's still a kiss. That's for being kind, she says self-consciously. We continue walking, acting like she never kissed me. I don't like mead much either, she said, breaking the awkward silence again. I don't respond, and we once again lapse into an awkward silence. After a while of just wandering the village in silence, we end up at the docks. Astrid sits letting her legs dangle off the edge of the dock. I stay standing behind her. I never wanted to be chief. Even when I was the heir, I liked to learn about chiefs, the other tribes, and how to be a chief, but I never wanted to actually be one. Why don't you? She asked. I finally sit next to her. Being chief means I have to lead and make decisions, things I don't do well. I would constantly have the pressure to live up to my ancestors. I say, gesturing at the two giant stone statues in the water that were carved by my ancestors. You don't have to live up to them, you have to live up to yourself. Why do you think I became a shield maiden? I won't have a husband to make proud or children who will live off my legacy. I'm a simple warrior dedicated to battling and defending those who need it. If you want people to remember you, do something that has never been done before. I hear Ruff say from behind me. Tuff is beside her, holding a contraption that I had planned to build but never started. We found your blueprints, Ruff says. Astrid, I want to show you something, I say, standing up. I hold out my hand to help her up. She grabs it and stands up and says, all right. Chapter 8: The Birds and the Bees, Not Sexual. The four of us walk into the woods. Me, Ruff and Tuff know to be unarmed, and Astrid isn't allowed to be armed for another 2 weeks. We get to the cove and I walk down first, then Tuff, then Astrid, then Ruff. Toothless, come on out, I call. Astrid looks very confused. Then she sees Toothless come out from behind some bushes. She reaches over her back, forgetting that she doesn't have her axe anymore. Hiccup, please tell me whatever Toothless is, it can kill a night fury, she says, terrified once she realizes that she doesn't have her axe. Ruff and Tuff just start sniggering. Astrid just looks at them in bewilderment. Toothless is the night fury, I say, rubbing the back of my neck. So you three enslaved the most deadly dragon? She asked, completely shocked. Not the three of us, just Hiccup, Ruff says. Yeah. And I didn't enslave him, I befriended him, I said. Tuff, can I have the tail? I call him over to Toothless. I start putting on the tail. I get up and sit on his back and we start flying around the cove, and I fall in the water as I was too slow to control the fin. The twins and Astrid pull us out of the water. And we stayed there for probably 2 hours flying around, and near the end I had given Tuff a ride as well as Ruff. I offered Astrid one, but she kindly refused. No thanks, I don't need that kind of excitement in my life just yet, she had said, still quite shocked. Then we hear leaves being crushed. Oh Hiccup, I'm coming for you, Snotlout says in a menacing sing-song voice. We all look up at the top of the cove where we hear the voice, but we don't see him and he doesn't see us. Oh, and if you think your girlfriend and her brother can save you, you are poorly mistaken. I have friends too, you know. Ruff is about to shout something till I clap my hand over her mouth from behind. Are you crazy? I whisper, shout in her ear. She shakes my hand off her mouth. No. Just, I'm not your girlfriend. I know that, but we can't fight him. What do you mean? We have me, you, Astrid and Tuff and a freaking night fury. Yeah, but we have no weapons. We have no idea who is with him, what weapons they have, or how many people he brought with him. Fine, she pouts. Astrid, do you want to take your chances with us or Snotlout? 5 minutes ago I would have said I'd take my chances with the sensible Viking, but I can no longer say that. That means you, definitely you. Hey Toothless, do you think you can carry all 4 of us? I ask. He cocked his head to the side a little and looked thoughtful. Then he crouches to the ground and waits for the 4 of us to settle ourselves on his back. Using a bit of extra rope we made sure the 4 of us were all secure. All right, but can you get us out of here? I urge him. He crouches lower to the ground and launches into the air. We shoot upward and are soon flying away from the giant stone statues at the harbor. Can you handle all this raw Vikingness? I ask him sarcastically. He looks at me and gives me a look of you doubt my ability, and gives a draconic scoff. Then Toothless decides to show off. He flies above the clouds and we see the aurora clearly. They glimmer like diamonds. The four of us just can't take our eyes off them. We stay up there for half an hour and then Toothless goes back down and we see the sun rising in the east. The sunrise. I breathe. I didn't know we were gone for that long. Ruff says. Neither did I say. We continue to stare at the sunrise for a few minutes. With its pink clouds and its orange and purple streaks we look till the sun comes up and we can't look anymore. We should be heading back. People will wonder where we are. Astrid says worried. Where is your sense of adventure? I ask Astrid cheekily. Right where it should be, on terra firma. Are you afraid of heights, Astrid? Tuff asks. No. My sense of adventure is on Berk. Astrid, you do realize as a shield maiden you may have to leave Berk and fight other tribes. So, she asked. If you want to stay on Berk for the rest of your life you can't really be a shield maiden. As we were talking about this Toothless' ears perked up. He turned to go in a different direction. Then we flew into a deep fog and everyone stopped talking. Then dragons started to appear out of the fog in front of us, behind us, above us, below and to the side. They had boxed us in. Toothless, get us out of here please. I pleaded. Hiccup, no amount of pleading is going to save us from the coming betrayal. Astrid whisper shouted. I ignored her and focused on flying. We were completely boxed in. Then we swooped down in between two sea stacks. I had started to notice that every dragon was carrying some kind of food in their claws. As I didn't want anyone to freak out, I didn't mention it. Eventually the fog cleared a tiny bit, enough to see a huge conical volcano rising out of the fog, and we were flying straight at it. As we got closer I saw a crack in it that all the dragons were flying into. Don't make a sound, I said to the others. We flew in behind a zipply back and in front of a monstrous nightmare. The nightmare saw us huddled on Toothless' back, but we had nowhere to go. Thankfully he didn't attack. I had no idea why. Once inside the volcano we saw all the dragons fly over the middle and dumped their spoils into the red mist below. Toothless veered away from the lineup and went straight for one of the stone platforms lining the walls. We all got off Toothless to hide behind him. I watched from under his legs that the dragons dropped various kinds of food into the mist. Everything from a small fish to a full-grown yak was dropped down into the mist. So they just dump everything down in the mist for what? Just to deprive us of food? Astrid asked, confused. Then the monstrous nightmare that was behind us veered away from the lineup without dropping his food and flew at us angry. Then a massive head reached up and swallowed not only the monstrous nightmare's offering but also the monstrous nightmare itself. What is that thing? Astrid whispered. I don't know, but we should leave. Ruff says, her voice shaking. Good thinking, I say. But can we go home? I asked. He crouches and launches forward. We start flying, but the large head tried to snap at us, which caused every dragon to flee from the massive head. A deadly nadder in its haste flew into me, knocking me off Toothless and back down to the stone platform. I landed on my side and hit my head, so I was a little out of it. I had more time flying, so I should fly. Tuff yelled. Yeah, but you fell off more. Ruff shouted. Yeah, so I know what not to do. Tuff said. Exactly, you know what not to do, whereas I know what to do because I didn't crash as much. Ruff retorted. Out of my way, you two. Astrid shouted, shoving past Ruff and Tuff and onto the front saddle. All right, dragon, I have no idea what I'm doing, so you gotta help me. I heard Astrid say. Then I got up and was staring straight into the eyes of the giant head. I'm about to be your supper, aren't I? I say sarcastically. The massive dragon just snorted in response. Where are you going? We have to get Hiccup. I heard Ruff shout. What do you think I'm doing? Astrid shouted back. Toothless flew away from me, but then flipped around and flew straight for me. He grabbed me with his claws and carried me out the crack in the cave wall. Ruff was leaning over the side to try and grab me and pull me up. Astrid was flying and Tuff made sure his sister didn't fall. Then the swarm of dragons came back and went in the volcano. They didn't even try to avoid us. A few ended up hitting us and we started to fall out of the sky. We crash-landed on a small sea stack that had a bit of grass and a few trees. The four of us were strewn all over the sea stack from Toothless' rough landing. Toothless ended up being knocked unconscious. I ended up being pinned under him with my head and shoulders being free. Ruff was hanging from a branch in a tree. Tuff was thrown sideways and landed face down in the grass. The twins were both unconscious. Astrid was the only one perfectly okay as she had jumped off Toothless before he crashed. She walked over to me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yep, just having my daily rib-crushing hug," I say sarcastically. "All right." Then she walked over to Tuff and got him up. The two of them climbed the tree and lowered Ruff one branch at a time, taking turns supporting her so the other could climb down and lower her slightly. Eventually they got her to the ground and came back to me. They tried to lift him off me but he was heavier than we expected. Even with me, Astrid and Tuff pushing, he wouldn't budge. After that failed attempt we tried to shift him off me once again. We couldn't get him off. We learned this at the expense of Astrid pushing so hard she slipped and fell and her face was covered in dirt. Me and Tuff started laughing. "I wouldn't be laughing if I were you, Hiccup. You might need me to get out from under your dragon," she admonished me. All right, I'll stop laughing," I had said. Ruff finally came to. She got up and walked over. "You got yourself in quite the predicament, haddock," she laughed, seeing me pinned underneath the large black mass. "I'm sorry, look who's talking, tree hugger," I said mischievously. "What do you mean?" Astrid stops trying to push Toothless off me and turns to Ruff. "You ended up hanging from one of the branches all the way up in that tree," Astrid says, pointing. "Unconscious," I say. "Oh, well, thanks for getting me down," Ruff says. "You mind getting Toothless off me?" I wheeze. Astrid laughs and goes back to helping get Toothless off me. "Should we try and roll him off?" Ruff asks. I'm about to answer when Astrid answers for me. "No, it could injure his wings or tail," Astrid says. "I didn't know you cared for Toothless," I ask Astrid cheekily. "I only want him unharmed because he is our only way home." "You also said him," I mentioned. "Oh, whatever," Astrid said loudly. After a long silence filled with my wheezing and the twins and Astrid trying to push Toothless off me, I got an idea. "Guys, I've got an idea, but it might backfire," I say nervously. "How so?" Astrid asks, brushing the dirt from her face. "Well, it might wake him up so I can get up, or he might just sleep more," I say. "Well, we can't do anything else," Astrid says. "Can we try digging under him?" Tuff asked. "We got no shovels to use, so we would have to use our hands and that would take too long," Astrid says. "All right, what do we need to do, H?" Tuff asks. "What? You haven't even asked my opinion," Ruff shouts. "Majority rules, Ruff," Astrid says simply. "Well, I need a type of grass. It's usually as tall as me and it's light green." "Ruff, if it makes you feel better, can you go get it?" I said. "Fine," she stomps off. After a minute of waiting for her to return, Astrid turns to me. "Are you two a thing or what?" she asks. "Oh ha, gods no, just friends," I say. "Does she feel the same way?" she asked. "I believe so. You saw how she reacted to Snotlout calling her my girlfriend." "Yeah, I guess," she said. At that moment Ruff came back. "I got the grass," she said. "All right, can you rub it on Toothless' nose, please?" "All right," she says as she rubs his nose with it. His nose starts twitching, then his eyes snap open and he starts jumping around. "Ow, Toothless!" I shout in pain. He jumps off me, realizing what he was jumping on. "We need to get home," Astrid says. "Toothless, can you get us home?" I ask. He simply crouches low in answer. We all get on and fly off in the direction of Burke. Guys?" Tuff asked, scared. "What Tuff?" I asked worriedly. "What happens if a person eats the grass?" "Why? Did you?" Astrid asks, annoyed. Tuff doesn't answer. "Yes, he did," Ruff says angrily. "Hiccup, am I gonna die?" he asks, genuinely fearful. I'm surprised by his question and how open he is about asking it. I don't think humans and dragons are that different. I reassure him. A bird flies past. Ah! What was that? Tuff cries. A bird. Astrid says, wiggling her finger in her ear in pain from Tuff's scream. Birds are tiny little killing machines. Tuff says fearfully. They are gonna kill us all with their tiny little beaks, he cried. How did we just fly past a bird, he asks, hyperventilating. On Toothless. I say simply. He finally looks down to see himself riding Toothless. Why am I on a dragon, he shouts. He tries to scramble off and it takes the three of us to hold him so he doesn't swan dive off of Toothless. Pull yourself together. Ruff shouts and slaps him. He immediately stops, then looks down and sees the water so far below and starts screaming in fear. After a minute, I've had enough. Tuff, you're gonna regret this. I warn. He continues screaming. I reach into his pocket and pull out a small brown rag and stick it in his mouth, and just like Astrid, he immediately stopped screaming and started gagging. We left him gagged for about 5 minutes till he calmed down. He was completely fine afterward, if a little disgusted at being gagged by Gobber's sweaty rag. We finally make it to Berk and land in the cove and we all hop off. Before Astrid runs off, I grab her by the shoulders and turn her to face me. You aren't going to tell anyone about Toothless, are you? No, I won't, but if anyone asks if you have a dragon directly, I'm not going to lie for you. Okay, thank you, Astrid. Goodbye, she says. As she is leaving, we hear the rustling of leaves again. We all hide wherever is close to us. Tuff hides behind a tree, I hide in the water, Ruff hides behind Toothless and Astrid hides behind a rock. Then we hear Fishleg's voice, then we see him. He walks past the rock, Astrid is behind. Astrid tiptoes around the rock and comes up behind him without him knowing. She cups one hand to his mouth and grabs one of his arms, pinning it behind his own back and holding him like that. I walk out of the water, dripping water. Astrid takes her hand off his mouth but keeps his arm pinned. Hiccup. You're okay, he says excitedly. Ruff and Tuff stay hidden, watching out for Snotlout. Why are you here, Fishlegs? I ask cautiously. Snotlout left last night and came this way with his dad, Dog's Breath, Adelid and Bagabum the Beer Belly. They all carried weapons, even Snotlout. So I decided to follow them to make sure you were okay, he said. And seeing that you are having a private moment, I'll leave, he says, gesturing to me and Astrid. Ow, he shouts as Astrid pushes his arm in a painful way. Ya, don't anger, Astrid. I say. Then he notices the large black mass behind me. Hiccup, I don't want to alarm you, but there is a sleeping dragon behind you, he whispers. Yeah, I know. I sigh. Fishlegs, Toothless, Toothless Fishlegs. I say. What? He squeaks. This is Hiccup's pet dragon. Astrid says. And if you tell anyone about this, I will give you more injuries than Snotlout has, you got that? Astrid threatened. Yep, Fishlegs gulped. She lets him go finally and Tuff walks out from behind the tree he was hiding in and Ruff walks around Toothless. You're all here? Fishlegs asks. Yep, and we were just at Helheim's Gate half an hour ago. Ruff brags. How? He asked. I just gesture to the saddle on Toothless' back. Oh, so you can ride him? He asked. Yep, I say. Then I tell him the whole story of how I befriended him. Wow, is all he says. Back to the bigger problem, what in Thor's name was that thing? Ruff asks loudly. It seemed to exert some kind of rule over them. I say. Like a bee. Astrid exclaims. We all look at her like she is crazy. No, seriously, a queen bee has control over her subjects and can send them out and call them back at will. She explains. That does make sense now that you explain it. Ruff said. Will someone please explain to me what is going on? Fishlegs shouted. With all the excitement of the huge dragon, we didn't realize that Fishlegs was trying to get a word in edgewise. When we went to Helheim's Gate, we actually went in and found the dragon's nest, and there was a large dragon as big as a small mountain there living inside the volcano, and it tried to kill us. Ruff explained. I was almost at supper, I said, thinking back to the few moments of being stranded on the ledge. We need to tell somebody about this. If we can kill this thing then maybe the dragon raids will stop. Astrid says. Speaking of, has anyone noticed how we haven't had any raids for a while? Tuff asks. That is true, there haven't been any in a while, maybe they stopped raiding. Ruff says. No, because they were hauling in their spoils when we went. I said. Maybe it's the absence of Toothless. Astrid says. While we were there I saw monstrous nightmares, hideous zipleybacks, gronkles and deadly nadders. The only unique dragons in there were Toothless and the Queen she finishes. Maybe the Queen likes using a Night Fury to attack Burke. Fishlegs said. Well, hopefully it will never attack Burke again and leave us alone, pick another tribe to fight. Astrid said. You don't really mean that? I said. I do, she replied. What about our friends from the other tribes? They can fend for themselves, she said. Doesn't mean we should leave them to possibly die. They won't, she said angrily. Yeah, because I'm gonna find a way to help them. I said, walking out of the cove. Hiccup, come back. Ruff called to me. Let him be for a bit. I heard Fishlegs say. Chapter 9: The Edge of Disaster. After walking for a minute I felt hands grab my shoulders. Ruff, if you're gonna tell me to not try and kill the Queen Dragon you're not gonna change my mind. I said without turning around. You gonna kill a Queen Dragon? I heard Snotlout say. My eyes widened, I turned around but received a punch to the face. I sit up from the ground and look at him in disbelief. The only thing being killed is gonna be you, he said menacingly. He put a bag on my head and tied my hands behind my back and started to walk me somewhere. Oops, almost forgot. He said happily. He takes off the bag and puts a rag in my mouth, then he puts the bag back on my head. There we go, he said cheerily. I have no idea where we are going and I am worried. All I can hear is the change in sound of our footsteps, from crushing dried leaves to snapping twigs to the smattering of gravel. I can tell I'm going up as there is an incline, but where I am I have no idea. We finally get to where he wants to be and takes off the bag. I'm on top of one of the cliffs of Burke and Spitaloot, Bagabum and Dog's Breath are there. If you are going to kill a Queen Dragon then you're gonna have to practice on me since I'm stronger than any dragon alive. Snotlout bragged. Not if you accept, he said. I didn't do anything, just stood there. He looks at Dog's Breath and nods. Dog's Breath walks up behind me and grabs my head and forces me to make a nodding motion. There we go. Snotlout cheered. I was then cut free and had the gag taken out of my mouth. Here, what weapon do you want? I'll let you pick first. Guys, hold out your weapons, he said. They all complied, holding out various weapons. I grabbed a dagger as it was the only weapon I could actually hold. All right, I will take a mace and sword, he says, grabbing those weapons. He takes a battle stance near the edge of the cliff facing me. The others all create a sort of human wall so I can't flee. I'm trapped in a fight with my extremely deadly cousin on the edge of a cliff. Snotlout runs at me swinging the sword above his head and while making more precise swings with the mace. I hop backwards and almost fall off the cliff. You aren't supposed to have weapons, I say, ducking under his swinging mace. And you aren't supposed to be alive, he shouts as he tries to knock me off the cliff with a low swing from his mace. I jump over it and crouch in midair so I don't cut my head off on his flailing sword. I see an opening where I can jump. I jump past him and behind him and into the human wall, who pushes me roughly back towards him. He whirls around and throws the mace at me. I jump so instead of hitting me it flies under my legs and hits the ground behind me. I quickly run over to it. You can't even pick it up, let alone swing it. What are you gonna do? He mocks. I just look at him as I take my dagger and cut the handle off so it's just a spiked ball on the ground. What, you can't? He splutters in rage. Spitaloot hands him an axe like Astrid's. Oh, and if you think your girlfriend will come to save you, Adelid is taking care of her, he sneers. 1, Ruff isn't my girlfriend, and 2, Adelid is like what, 8? I ask mockingly. Let's see an 8-year-old versus a 15-year-old, I wonder who's gonna win. I'd bet on the one with more experience, I say, egging him on. Then I'm grabbed roughly from behind and start choking. I had forgotten that not only was Adelid's brother here but also her father. That's me daughter you're talking about there, boyo, he threatens. What are you doing with Hiccup? I hear Rough Nut shriek from the bottom of the cliff. It's okay Rough, just my daily rib-crushing hug is all. I call back down. Spitaloots chokehold tightens so I can't speak. You let him go right now. She shouts. Okay. Spitaloot says as he starts walking towards the cliff, dragging me with him. No please. I squeak out. Snotlout leans over the cliff. Careful what you wish for Rough, he says in a sing-song voice. Then I'm hanging over the cliff. Looking at everything below me, I see Rough and a few trees and a pond, but the pond is too far away for me to try to land in before I hit the ground. Then I'm falling. Then I'm flying. Chapter 10. Oi. Your chief asked you to listen. Something had hit me hard from behind while I was falling. I catch glimpses of Rough Nut and someone else blonde, but I can't tell who it is as I am spinning so much. Whoever the blonde Viking is hits the ground, rolls and pops back into a crouching battle stance. Then I fall into water. I sunk so far that I can barely tell which way is up and which way is down. I start swimming in the direction I think is up and my lungs start to burn like there is a dragon inside them. I feel like I'm about to burst and shrivel up at the same time. But then a hand grabs mine and pulls me sideways. I look up at the direction we are going now and realize the sun is up there, so I follow. I break the surface and take several large greedy gulps of air. I look at my blonde savior. Astrid looked very angry, her short hair is dripping and she looks like she is about to kill someone, which seems fitting since someone just tried to kill me. The three of us walk home and both me and Astrid are limping. Tuff comes running up asking where we've been. I don't really have an answer for that. I say, looking at Astrid and Rough. Rough Nut helps me walk home and Astrid keeps refusing help but eventually falls and needs help getting up. Tuff offers a hand and she takes it and levers herself up, walking the rest of the way relying on Tough Nut while walking. I tell them what happened to me, then when I've finished Rough and Astrid tell what happened. After you left I forced Astrid into coming with me to find you, she needed to apologize. Rough said. We knew you liked to be alone so we went looking in the woods, said Astrid. What we did not expect was to find you fighting Snotlout on the edge of a cliff. Rough said. I guessed that they would try to throw you over the side of the cliff when they were done, but just in case they didn't I got Rough to egg them on while I hid just under the cliff. Astrid said. When you fell I pushed off from the wall and pushed you hard enough for you to land in the water. Then jumped in after you to make sure you were coming up. She explained. Wow, me and Tuff say in unison. I come into the village looking very worse for wear. Everyone starts coming up to me asking what happened. Give the boy some space. I hear Gobber yell, everyone immediately backs up except for Fishlegs, the twins, Astrid, the twins' parents and Gobber himself. Who did this, lad? Alvin the treacherous. Dager. Norbert, he asked in a low whisper. The Jorgensen boys, Dog's Breath and Bagabum. Astrid says. And Adelaide. I say. Really, I didn't see her. Rough says. Yas Snotlout said she was trying to kill you. I would have liked to see her try, she says. That would be fun to watch, comments Astrid. Yeah, no, I've had enough fighting for the year. I say. Gobber. I call. Yeah. Can we have protection for the Thorston house, the Horferson house and the Ingerman house? I ask. As well as yours, of course, he says. I'll get all my most trustworthy fighters, he says as he walks off to do just that. Funny, all the ones I can think of are the ones needing the protection. You think I'm trustworthy? Astrid asks in bewilderment. Yes, you saved me not once but twice. From Snotlout and the giant dragon. I finish in a whisper. And do you think I would have let you leave the cove if I didn't trust you? I whisper. Thanks, Hiccup. That means a lot. Speaking of the cove, I gotta tell the village now. I say sadly. Why? Rough asks. When I walked away I thought Snotlout was you, so I said something about killing the queen dragon. You thought Snotlout was me? She asks menacingly. He was behind me, okay, and I thought it was you chasing after me. Now guys, can you stall for me? I asked them. What about Snotlout, what if he finds you again? Rough asks worried. Don't worry, this time I'll have Toothless. I say comfortingly. Then I run off into the forest still slightly limping. I make it to the cove in 15 minutes. Once there I hop on Toothless and start flying. I see Rough, Tough, Astrid and Fishlegs standing at the top of the steps to the Great Hall. Tough on the left, then Astrid, then a space about the size of Toothless, then Rough and then Fishlegs. Everyone else is at the bottom of the stairs. I fly overhead but nobody notices, then I land in the space provided for me. I hop off Toothless and look at the extremely shocked crowd below. Before you shout and scream, please hear me out, I say, holding my hands up in a placating gesture. I look behind me and to the left and see Rough smiling and Fishlegs shaking with nervous energy. Then I look to my right and behind me and see Tough giving me 2 big thumbs up with the biggest grin on his face that I've ever seen, and Astrid, who is glaring at the crowd and then notices me looking at her. She turns her head to look at me, nods her head once. Astrid is the second most non-expressive person I know, so that tiny nod actually means a lot. With that boost to my confidence, I turn back to the crowd. I have learned that dragons are not what we thought they were, I say. I realize the crowd isn't even listening and my resolve was fading. Oh. Your chief asked you to listen, Astrid shouted, reminding them that I'm still their chief for the next 2 weeks. Everyone quieted down after that. I look at Astrid in surprise. I didn't think she would support me like that. She sees me looking at her and smiles, gesturing with her head that the crowd is waiting. We all thought they were murderous beasts that didn't have feelings, I said. How many people have they taken from us? I ask the crowd. Hundreds, someone answers. And how many of them have we killed? There is silence as they think it over. Thousands, I say with conviction. And why? I ask. Do you know why they attack unprovoked? Any of you, do you have a legitimate reason as to why they attack all the time? I pause. Because I do. I look back and see my friends standing there. We do, I say louder. The dragons have a nest, I say. Me, Astrid and Rough Nut and Tough Nut have been there. Everyone looks shocked. You might be wondering how we got through Helheim's Gate. Well, to put it simply, we didn't. Instead we went over it, I say, turning and gesturing at Toothless. Their nest has a queen, similar to a bee's nest, I say. And like a queen bee, this queen dragon exerts control over the other dragons, not like a chief has control of his village, but like an enchantress who gets in their heads. It's not their fault, it's the queen's fault that they kill us and that we kill them. If we can get rid of this queen's power over them, they become peaceful, just like Toothless, I say, gesturing back at him. When I gesture back, I see Snotlout, Spitaloot, Dog's Breath, Bagabum and a bunch of other angry villagers approaching from behind us that none of us saw. I lean toward Astrid to my right and Rough to my left and tell them to get on Toothless and to get the others on as well. I don't tell them why. I then look back at the crowd to save face. As you can see, Toothless is quite fine with my friends riding him. I turn around to smile at my friends and shout, "Now Toothless!" He launches into the air just as Snotlout is about to attack him. Toothless and my friends escape just in time and fly away. Oh Hiccup! You just made this so easy, Snotlout says excitedly. As Hiccup isn't fit to be chief and is treasonous and stoic isn't allowed to be chief for another 2 weeks, I nominate the true heir, Snotlout, to be chief. Spitaloot says. I am thrown into a jail cell less than 2 minutes later. Chapter 11. You just gestured to all of me. The cell is a grey box no bigger than 4 meters by 4 meters. One wall is entirely iron bars and the other 3 are stone. My cell is at the very end of a hallway. There are 3 other empty cells just like mine. A blanket and a bucket, I say to myself, listing what is in the cell. And now me, I said dejectedly. At least the others are safe, I said to myself. I wouldn't be too sure of that, Hiccup, Snotlout taunts. I hadn't even known he had come in. He was standing behind me, leaning on the bars to the cell. I have every available warrior hunting for them right now, he gloats. You won't find them here or anywhere on Berk, I said angrily. That's why I'm not looking for them on Berk, he says smugly. My jaw drops. I saw you send them away and I know you would send them as far as possible. You wouldn't let them stay anywhere near here. You care for them too much, and they care for you, so that's why I'm gonna wait to kill you till I have all of them watching, including the dragon. He started to walk out of the prison. Why are you like this? What did I ever do to you? I asked, more out of curiosity than pity. He whirled around, his face contorted in rage. You were born. He shouted darkly. He calmed himself a little bit. You could have been more like me, I would have taken you under my wing. Or if you were more like your dad, I would have respected you. Or anyone for that matter. Even the twins had a level of respect before they started to hang out with you. Even Fishlegs, he was big, which made him more of a Viking than you. You could have been more like anyone on Berk, but you decided to be this. He gestures to all of me. You just gestured to all of me. I roll my eyes. You will respect your chief, he roared. Not when he is a psychotic teenager. I mumbled. He grabbed me by the collar through the bars and pulled me hard toward him, slamming me face first into the bars. He spit in my face. Don't ever forget, even when you are a chief you are useless, he shouts. I was in the cell for what I assume is several days and saw many different guards, seeing which ones were kind and which were cruel, which turned out to be all of them. The only one that seemed kind ended up throwing me a key one day. I tried it on the lock and it didn't work. If you can get out of here alive, you deserve to break into my storage shed, he had said, laughing. After about what I assume was a week and a half in the cell, I found a piece of paper hidden inside the loose handle of my spoon. It was folded probably about a dozen times to fit. I simply hid it inside my boot. When it was safe to read it, I pulled it out and unfolded it. Hiccup, not sure when you will read this, but I am going to kill you when I get back. I am going to break you out of jail just to kill you. We are all very angry, even Toothless. Toothless brought us to the Dragon Island, thankfully to the shore this time. Somehow he convinced a Gronkle and a Zipley back to help us. We will be coming soon, probably in 2 days. I folded it back up and hid it in my boot. Later that day, Snotlout comes in the cell to mock me. Your father has disowned you, he says simply. I was practically disowned before this. I deadpan. Do you know how long I'll be chief now, he asks, gloating. Until I'm old, he shouts. He starts to walk out. 2 days. I say in whisper but loud enough for him to hear. Ha. It will be much longer, he shouts in my face. This village will burn if you're chief for another 2 days. I say menacingly. He walks away. We'll see about that, he gloats. About 2 days later there is the first dragon raid in a while. I can hear the explosions of fireballs and the shouting of the guards. Then I hear rumbling, then the ceiling starts to crack and I hide in a corner. A part of the ceiling cracks open and falls to the floor. I stand up and walk over to the new hole in the ceiling and I can hear all the dragon's wings beating as they fly away. The door opens to the jail building and Snotlout walks in. What happened to there being no more raids, he says, gloating, still walking down the hall to my cell. He finally reaches my cell. It's not a raid, it's more of a prison break. I say, grinning as a rope drops down next to me. Guards, open this door, he roars. The guard that just so happened to be on guard duty that day was the same one who gave me the key earlier. Thanks for these. I say, grinning as I waggle the key. I grab the rope. I believe according to you I now deserve to break into your storehouse. I mock as I climb the rope. Then I slide down the rope as I am not strong enough to climb the rope. Snotlout just grins bigger than I've ever seen him grin before. I am still holding the rope when the whole rope is pulled up by Astrid riding Toothless. Astrid grabs my arms and pulls me up and gives me a hug. You okay? She asks, still hugging me. Yep, just getting my daily rib-crushing hug. I squeak. Good, because you are gonna get more than a few ribs broken when we are done with you, she says, slightly angry. Well, I'm not gonna delay the inevitable, so where are we going? Back to Dragon Island. Okay, but you want to take us there? He warbles and then shoots off towards Dragon Island in the distance. I see 2 dragons waiting for us. As we get closer I recognize not only the species of dragon but also their riders. Rough. Tough. Fish legs. I call. Hey, you escaped. Tough calls. Yep, and I also kind of predicted the future to Snotlout. What? Everyone asks. When I got the message in the spoon I read it, and later that day Snotlout came in gloating about being chief for as long as he wanted. I told him the village would burn in 2 days and well, you guys caused that. And I thought Toothless only convinced these 2. I say, gesturing at the dragon's fish legs and the twins were riding. Yeah, it seems the dragons have some sort of ranking system, and when they saw a Night Fury go attack, a bunch of the others came to attack as well. Astrid says. We've got a decision to make. Do we go home and dethrone Snotlout? Or do we go live somewhere else? I ask solemnly. The 3 dragons and the 5 riders hover in the air in a circle thinking it over. Our parents are there, says Fishlegs. Everyone who votes on dethroning Snotlout right now raise your hand. No one does. Everyone who votes on waiting to plan how to dethrone Snotlout, raise your hand. 5 hands including mine, go up immediately. It's settled then. We continue to fly towards Dragon Island. Once there we land on the shore. To find a small cave with a few bags of stuff. The bags were my stuff. I had forgotten that I had packed to leave. It felt like so long ago that I had planned to leave. I had only packed a few blankets and only enough food for 1 dragon and a very thin Viking, so we had nowhere near enough stuff to survive with 5 people and 3 dragons. Me, Fishlegs and Toughnut let the girls have the blankets and I cuddled up with Toothless. The next day we all woke up to Astrid screaming. Chapter 12. This is who you are. I looked at the entrance to the cave and saw Astrid staring down an angry deadly nadder that is trying to attack us. Every time it tries to go past her, she moves in front of her. The nadder shoots a small burst of fire. Astrid dodges it, but as soon as the nadder stops shooting fire, she is back in front of it. Astrid, what are you doing? Ruff whispers worriedly. I didn't spend all that time planning how to keep all of us safe just for us to be killed in our sleep by a dragon. Astrid seethes. The nadder finally stops trying to attack and tilts her head a bit to see Astrid. The nadder seems to sense her determination. And it stops trying to attack. She makes a squawking sound. Toothless replies with a warble. The nadder calms down immensely, then it starts to purr. What's it doing? Astrid asks, scared. I think it wants to be your friend. I say, walking over. Give me your hand. I say softly. She pulls her hand back. Are you sure, Hiccup? She asks, worried. Impositive. I say comfortingly. She lets me take her hand and I get her to hold it out in front of her. I tell her to look away and I step back. She looks at the ground and the nadder moves its head gently into Astrid's palm. Astrid feels the nadder's beak in her hand. You're just a cute little girl, aren't you? Laughs Astrid, petting the nadder. So when can I fly her? She asks. Well, I don't have a forge. I let everyone know. And that matters because, asks Tough. I can't make saddles and riding bareback isn't comfortable for you or the dragon. Could we use the forge on Burke? Tough asks. Doing that would be suicide. Astrid says as Ruff slaps her brother in the back of the head. What about all the lava spots on the island? Could you use them as a makeshift forge? Fishlegs asked. Yeah, I could do that. I would just have to find the best lava spout that is near the water. I jumped on Toothless and flew off. After several minutes of flying, I ended up finding exactly what I wanted, a lot of steam geysers close together and near the water. I grabbed a bunch of rocks about the size of a shield boss and started to put them on top of a few of the steam geysers, increasing the pressure and in turn the heat on the others. I then found some branches with leaves on the ends and wedged them into the ground on angles so they provided a sort of shelter over the main steam geyser. I then walked around the area I was in and found a few metal weapons and tools and stored them at the makeshift forge. I did all this in about 2 hours. After that I carried the weapons back to the cave except for 2, a small hammer and a pair of tongs. I kept these for the forge and brought the other back to the cave to see if anyone wanted them. I returned to find Fishlegs sitting next to his Gronkle trying to think of a name for her, Ruff and Astrid making weapons out of what we had and Tough sleeping. Horrorcow. No, Gronk. No, Meatlug. Yeah, I like Meatlug, do you? Fishlegs was talking to his Gronkle. Hey Hiccup, did you find a place for your forge? Ruff asked me. Yeah, and I've already started making it and I even found a few weapons strewn around the part of the island I was at. I say, trying to hold a sword but failing. Astrid laughs a little. Thank you, I'll take that before you drop it and cut off your toes, she says, chuckling as she hefts the sword out of my arms. They each take their pick of weapons. Ruff grabs a sword, Astrid grabs an axe, Tough grabs a mace and Fishlegs grabs a hatchet. Do you have a weapon for yourself? Astrid asks. No, the only things I kept were a small hammer and a pair of metal tongs for the forge. I said. Well, here you go, she says, handing me a stick with a strange blue and yellow tip tied to it like a spear. What is it? I asked her. It's a spear that me and Ruff made out of the Nada's spines. Because of that it is poisonous, so don't go around spearing any of us. Astrid says, grinning. Wonder why no one thought to do this while on Berk with the leftover spines. I asked, checking it out. Because everyone on Berk are idiots if they think Snotlout would make a better chief than Hiccup. Ruff says, joining the conversation. I don't want to be chief though. I say, slightly annoyed. I bet you didn't want Snotlout to be chief either, but it happened. Ruff says determinedly. She walked up to me and puts her index finger on the chief mark on my forehead. This right here is who you are, she says. Astrid pushes her lightly out of the way. No, it's not. She puts her palm to my chest over my heart. This is. Astrid says. Thanks. I say, feeling very self-conscious. All right, that's enough soppy stuff. We need to plan. Astrid says, quickly clapping her hands. I go to my packs and get a large piece of parchment. Where are we gonna put the map? I asked. We could hammer it into the wall over there. Fishlegs says, pointing at a relatively flat wall. Okay, I'll go get my hammer, I say as I hop on Toothless and fly away. I return 5 minutes later with the small hammer and 4 nails. And start to hammer the nails into the parchment and the wall. Once the parchment could hang on its own and was flat against the wall, I got a charcoal pencil and drew Berk with details like the locations of our parents' houses and the location of the Jorgensen house, as well as any other locations our friends and family might be at. After this I drew in all of Berk's last known defenses, the 2 catapults and the 2 night torches that we would have to avoid, as well as the usual Viking weaponry. The next week me and Toothless went on a scouting mission above Berk and saw that there was now a 3rd catapult in the middle of the village near the chief's house and 2 more night torches, as well as plenty of guards around the Thorston house, the Jorgensen house, the Horfresen house, the Haddock house and the Ingerman house. We also saw a large statue of Snotlout being built. After that we flew home and updated the map with the new guard locations and the new defenses. We got a good night's rest and attacked. The 5 of us on our dragons along with a few other dragons went to Berk. We burned the Jorgensen house down and landed on top of the statue of Snotlout, and dismounted. Snotlout came out of my house and his father came out of the now burning Jorgensen house. Then a crowd appeared below us. I tried to peacefully show you that dragons can be peaceable. I said loudly. None of you listened and even tried to assassinate your temporary chief. Snotlout looked angry. Not once but twice. I continued. I was beaten, abused, disowned and thrown in jail. That is what you did to your chief who found a way to end the war. I called down to the crowd. The 3 catapults started to turn towards us. I mounted Toothless and that was the cue for the others to do the same. Dragons don't kill us for no reason. If they did, then the 5 of us would be dead already. I said. All 3 catapults were now aimed at us and they all fired. All of us flew up on the dragons and dodged the boulders that were now hurtling towards Snotlout's statue. Then Fishlegs and Meatlug headed for one catapult while Astrid and her deadly Nada targeted another, and the twins attacked the last one. Me and Toothless hovered above and in front of the crowd as the Snotlout statue crumbled and fell. Now that you aren't trying to kill us, we can talk leader to leader to leader. I say as the statue hits the ground, adding emphasis to my words. All right, Hiccup, come down off your dragon and we'll talk. Snotlout says, brandishing a sword. Not really, if you hadn't noticed I had said leader 3 times, Toothless is included. I said firmly. Toothless roared and the dragons nearby came and landed nearby. If anyone tries to harm a dragon they will not hesitate to fight back. I threaten. Everyone is on edge watching in case a dragon near them attacks. I get off Toothless and stand beside him. Hiccup, you are banished. Snotlout shouts, thinking that will make me afraid and flee. So? I respond. Why is no one attacking you, he shouts. Because if they do they know that everyone will die. I say. I challenge you to a home gang, he shouts. Okay. I say nonchalantly, unsheathing my dagger. You accept, he asks, surprised. I kind of have to, don't I? I say just as nonchalantly as before. Well, you're gonna regret it, he says, getting over his shock. Sure. I say mockingly. He rushes at me with a sword. But his father stepped in front of him, stopping his charge. You can't have the home gang now, you must wait till a date set by the two of you in advance, he says. Astrid walk up to me. You sure about this, she whispers. That depends on how much time you need to train me to fight with a dagger. A month, she says seriously. I can get you 7 days. I whisper back. She storms back to the twins and fish legs. What's he doing? Ruff asked Astrid. Getting himself killed. I heard Astrid say, very angry. 7 days. I tell Snotlout. Right here, he says. I nod, then the 5 of us mount up. If anyone wants to come with us, speak now. I say. No one comes with us. We fly off in the direction of Dragon Island. We land and Astrid immediately throws a dagger at my feet, embedding itself in the pebbly beach. She storms over to me and gets right in my face. Everyone else walks away, seeing the tension. You are one crazy Viking, she says angrily. I lean down to pick up the dagger. Before I teach you how to use a dagger, you need to be a bit stronger, she says as she puts a rock on my shoulders. Lift that 100 times, she says. The rock weighs as much as a large chicken, and so I do squats, counting as I do them. After about half an hour I'm at 40. Astrid walks up to me and crouches in front of me. What are you at? She asks. 40, I say, exhausted. You're dead, she says under her breath. What did you say? I asked. Nothing, she says quickly. She stands up and walks away for a while. After another half hour she comes back carrying a makeshift training dummy and just leans him on the ground. She then walks towards me. What are you at now? She asks. 85, I say. 15 more, she says. After a few more minutes I drop the rock and stand up straight. 100, I say. In an hour and a quarter, she says, looking at the sun's location in the sky. Oh, come on. I complain. Now you can grab the dagger, she says. I look down and it's not there. I look at her and she pulls it out of a sheath on her armored skirt and starts to waggle it slightly in front of her. I reach for it and she hops back a step. Come on, Astrid, can you just give me it? I say, annoyed. Nope, she says. Do you know why? She says. Because you are going to have to lunge like you are now to get close to Snotlout. I jump forwards again and she jumps to the side. Snotlout is also going to dodge, she says. After probably an hour of lunging and jumping and chasing, I finally knocked the dagger out of her hand and picked it up. Now the real training starts, she said. She grabs the training dummy and stands him up in the pebbles. She takes another dagger from her skirt and walks to the dummy. In a home gang you want to hit the other person's chest or stomach or just knock them out. As you aren't strong enough to knock Snotlout unconscious, you will be trying to cut his chest or stomach, she says, indicating the body of the dummy. Attack the dummy, she says as she steps back. So I run and slice the dagger at the chest. Okay, so you can aim your swings at least, she says, inspecting the cut cloth. Now I want you to try and hit a moving target, she says as she picks up the dummy and holds it in front of her. Shouldn't we rest first? I ask. Was it my decision to start a home gang in 7 days with absolutely no fighting experience? She asks sarcastically. No. I say. So then you don't get a break until I say you can, she says. Now attack the dummy, she says as she dances around trying to keep the dagger from making contact with the dummy. After about 10 minutes I finally slice the dummy. Good, but you won't survive for 10 minutes, she says. You do know that one of us can substitute for you, she says, hoping that I will let her. Yeah, but I should be the one to do it. He started it with me. I reply. Are you sure? Because I can't train you to fight with a dagger against Snotlout in 7 days, she asks. Well, you are gonna have to, because I'm not giving up, I said firmly. Astrid looked surprised at my reaction. Well, that's the spirit, she said happily. Now that you can attack, I want you to be fast. Not just in your running but in your swing speed. That's what you call it? Swing speed? I asked, laughing. *OF*. She punched me in my stomach. What would you call it then? She asked sweetly. Dexterity, I said, groaning. I get to my feet. Now you are going to run around the island 5 times, she said. Okay, but come here, I say, grinning, thinking I outwitted her. Toothless walks up to me, but I notice his saddle and tail are missing. Astrid walks up behind me. He can run with you, but you can't get any help from him. I will be watching to make sure you do it properly, she warns. Fine, and so I spent the next 45 minutes running around the island, completing my first lap. Astrid landed and gave me dinner. After that it was right back to running around the island 4 more times. I was beyond winded by the time I finished all 5 laps. Astrid finally gave me a break and the two of us went flying for a short while. Do you think that Snotlout will cheat during the home gang? I broke the silence between us. If you're asking if I think he will try, yes. But if you're asking if he will even be able to, I don't know, she replied. If he does, is there any way I can make it not work? I ask. That depends on what rule he breaks and which rules you set, she answered. And if he does break the rules, I'll be there to set him straight, she says. After a few more minutes we land and walk back to the cave. We both go to bed. I'm asleep before anyone else. Chapter 13, Family. The next morning Astrid wakes me up before anyone else. I get up and stretch my arms above my head and yawn. Hurry up, sleepyhead, she calls from the entrance of the cave. I walk to the entrance and realize that it is still dark out. What time is it? I ask grumpily. Time for you to run around the island 5 times, she says, smirking. Come on, I whine. I'll run with you, she says. What about breakfast? I ask, hoping to get out of the morning run. We can stop for breakfast once you've finished your second lap, she says firmly. So I reluctantly walk out of the cave and we start to run. We don't talk much since we know we should save our breath. We end up passing the entrance to the cave half an hour later, which signals the end of my first lap. A little while later we pass the forge for the second time, that signals I'm halfway done my second lap. Then a monstrous nightmare lands in front of us that stops our run. Challenge you to wrangle him to the ground, Astrid says. What? A challenge to playfully wrangle him to the ground, she says. I can't communicate with dragons that well, I say, exasperated. Fine, she says as she sprints under the monstrous nightmare. I chase after her. After that encounter we were a little more cautious about our runs. For some reason the queen must not have cared that we were on the island at the time. I was wondering about her. Should we end her tyranny by killing her or sparing her life? I thought about it all through breakfast and all through our third lap and halfway through the fourth. What do you think we should do about the queen dragon? I asked Astrid. Save your breath, she said simply. So I did not ask again until after our 5th lap. What are we going to do about the queen dragon? I asked her as we were carrying the dummy and all our training gear out of the cave. I don't think she should continue living, Astrid said. If I can convince the 4 of you to accept dragons, maybe I can convince a dragon to accept humans, I said thoughtfully. That is beyond crazy, she says, bewildered. Does that make me a real Viking now? I say jokingly, but I'm secretly hoping it does. No, because you're not a Viking, you're a dragon rider, she says, grinning. And a crazy, brave, kind and loyal one at that, she says. This made me happier than if she had called me a real Viking. After that short discussion we continue carrying all the training stuff out of the cave. After that, all we ended up using was 2 daggers, but we left the sheaths on so we didn't harm each other. I was to try and stab her with the sheath of the dagger and she was gonna dodge. We did this for the next 3 hours of me leaping forward and her hopping to the side, and when I lunged she would dodge. By the end of the 3 hours I had tagged her a little more than a dozen times. This was a huge improvement to the last time I had sparred with someone, and that was a boy named Thuggery, the heir from the Meathead tribe, who bested me in less than 30 seconds, much to the embarrassment of my father. I was grinning from ear to ear at my slight success. You like training? Astrid asked, seeing my grin. No, it's just I've never been close to good at anything involving fighting, I said, my grin faltering a little. Well then I'll train you up real good then, she says. Now my turn to attack you, she says. The sheath stays on though, right? I ask nervously. You think I would do all this work, just for you to get hurt? She asks mock dangerously. Yeah, I say. Okay, she says as she jumps me by surprise. I scamper out of her range, and face her. Then we start jumping around, her trying to tag me with the sheathed dagger and me trying to dodge said dagger. We continue this strange dance for about 2 more hours. I was tagged at least 30 times. The next 3 days we fell into a routine of the 5 laps around the island, then we trained in my swing speed and then I would practice dodging. The last day of preparation I had to fight Rough Nut, who had a sword and a mace while I had a dagger. I fought Rough instead of Astrid because Rough was more skilled with a sword and mace than Astrid. Astrid and Rough taught me a few mace and sword strategies so I can predict what Snotlout might do tomorrow. And my final test was to fight Rough. We stood before each other, took 3 steps back and drew our weapons. She started to run at me swinging the mace with precision but simply just flailing the sword as I had seen Snotlout do before. I dodged the mace until Rough made a mistake. She raised the mace to bring down on me, leaving her open to a low hit, so I ducked and ran forward and poked her stomach with the sheathed dagger, ending the fight. I stood up and backed up. I offered my hand in a handshake but she grabbed it and pulled me into a hug. Kinda crushing me there, Rough. I squeak. No, I'm just giving you your daily rib-crushing hug, she says smiling. Thanks. I say. She finally lets me breath as she lets go. You did really well, she exclaims. Is it well enough to beat Snotlout? I asked, worried. You'll be fine, and even if he does win it's not to the death. Fishlegs says. After you beat Snotlout, can I help beat the snot out of him after? Tough asks. No thanks Tough, I won't be beating the snot out of anyone. He whines. After my successful battle against Rough we all went on a celebratory fly around the island and came back and went to bed early. The next day we all flew to Berk for the home gang. We landed in the center of the village in front of Snotlout, Spitaloot and the elders with the crowd around us. I walk over to Snotlout and stand in front of him. What rules are we agreeing to? He asks. What do you want? I asked. No interfering from your friends, he says. That goes for you too. I say. Dual wielding is allowed, he continues. Okay. That's it, he says. To first contact, not to death. I say, and he looks annoyed. And if we need, we can go all over the village. The villagers must give enough space to move about. I say. Okay, he says. We stand before each other and take 3 steps backwards. The crowd moves back quite a bit to the point where the closest person is 2 meters away. Ready? Old Wrinkly asked. Yes, me and Snotlout say in unison. Begin, he says. Snotlout did exactly what Rough did. He swung the sword wildly and made more precise swings with the mace. I kept jumping back away from the mace so he never hit me. After a while I couldn't find an opening to attack, so I jumped to the side and tried to tag him. He blocked it with the mace. After that I tried it again and tagged him at the same time as he tagged me. We stop and turn to the elders. Who tagged who first? I asked. I did, I tagged him first. Snotlout roared. My eyesight might be failing but I saw both of them tag each other at the same time, exclaims Old Wrinkly. I saw the same thing. Henrik says. An interesting predicament. Gothai's translator translates. Wait, this has never happened before? I asked. No, we have never had 2 people make contact at the exact same moment, says Henrik. What do we do then? I asked. I guess just start over again, says Mildew, who for once in his life sounds unsure. But my son made contact first, says Spitaloot a little angrily. Spitaloot, no one else saw Snotlout make contact before Hiccup did. Henrik says. So me and Snotlout battled again. This time he grazed my arm with the mace as I grazed his chin, both of us leaving a small scratch. We turn to the judges and point to the 2 marks. Again both made contact at the same time. Henrik said, grinning. Spitaloot went bug-eyed. Again. Spitaloot roared. So me and Snotlout took a few steps away from each other and waited for the signal to start. Start. Old Wrinkly said. Snotlout ran at me and I ducked under his swinging mace and sword and poked his shin with the dagger. We both turned to the judges and Snotlout and Spitaloot were seething with rage. Hiccup has won the home gang. Henrik says. A few cheers from my friends and family go up but no one else. My face becomes sad at the small cheer I get. I know it's selfish of me, but I wish just once that people would cheer for me because they cared. The friends all looked at each other, then at the crowd that did nothing. I feel something smooth and scaly rubbing against my hand. I look down and see Toothless rubbing my hand with his head. He sticks out his tongue and gently licks my palm. Then he looks into my eyes. After seeing the sadness there, he sticks his head up and roars into the sky. All the other dragons mimic this, and the combination of all the different roars almost sounds like a cheer. Come here, you, I say as I wrap my arms around Toothless' neck. In all the excitement I hadn't realized that my dad should be chief. Why is Snotlout chief? Shouldn't Stoic be? I asked. When Snotlout said he will be chief for as long as he wants, he meant it. He changed the law so only those he approves of will be chief. Gobber says. I turn to Old Wrinkly. Having defeated Snotlout in a home gang, am I able to force him to dethrone? I asked. Spiderloot's face went white when I asked this question. In a way, yes. But that means that you must become chief. Please not again. I say. You have to. Or else Snotlout remains chief. Ruff says. No one wants me to be chief. I say, gesturing at the crowd that is mostly frowning. Then I got an idea. When the chieftainship moves to a new person, do the laws of the previous chief remain? I asked. Yes, says Old Wrinkly. Well then I will become chief. I say, smiling at the dupe I'm about to pull. Gothai smudges some charcoal on her finger and draws the symbol of chief on my forehead. Now, as my first act as chief is to approve Stoic the Vast to be chief by the law that Snotlout Jorgensen set in place. I say, grinning at what I had just done. Whoa. You can't. I'm the Kai. Snotlout sputters in rage. Everyone just looks at me with annoyance like Ruff, pride like Old Wrinkly, Henrik and Gothai, and joy like Stoic. Immediately after saying that, I rub the charcoal symbol off my forehead. Stoic walks over to me and hugs me. Dad, I can't breathe. I gasp. Sorry son, just making sure you've had your daily rib-crushing hug, he says, grinning through his beard. Bye Dad. I say, smiling. You're not staying? He asked, frowning. No, I gotta take some time till I feel ready to come back. I said sadly. This is about your treatment, isn't it? He asks. Yeah, I'll come back soon, I promise. I say. I get on Toothless and get ready to fly off when my friends stop me. Where do you think you are going, mister? Ruff asks. Back to Dragon Island. I say. Well, we are coming with you, she says. Wouldn't you like to be with your families? I ask. Yes, but you are a part of that family. Astrid says. Chapter 14, The Talk. Back on Dragon Island, we still had to figure out what to do about the giant queen dragon. We were slowly making it our home, and we brought our belongings to the island. I brought materials to make my forge more efficient. Fishlegs brought maps and booklets so he could do research about all the dragons. Ruff and Tough brought Stan and a few of their pranking materials, and Astrid brought things that were less for her and more for all of us. She brought 3 chickens to the island and made them a pen so we could farm them. We even earned a little bit of money from selling off extra unfertilized eggs. We would visit Burke every little while. I would go to the forge, Astrid would spend time with her parents, Fishlegs would be trying to learn more about dragons, and the twins would be pranking people. During my work at the forge, a few people would come to see me. Mostly it was Gobber, Stoic, Ivan, Tindra, Gothai, Henrik and Old Wrinkly. Every time we visit Burke, we all go our separate ways. I go to check on my father, Ruff goes to check on her parents, Tough goes to prank people, Astrid goes off to train with her dad, and Fishlegs goes to check on his family. Son. How old do you think I am? My father asked while we ate dinner during one such visit. You are do I have to answer that? I asked nervously. Yes, he said with a firm stare. You 30. I guessed low. He starts laughing. Ha 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 ha. No son, I'm older than that, he says, grinning. I'm 31. I guessed again. Nope, he says, still grinning. 32. I asked. Are you just going to keep guessing the number after your previous guess? He asks, grinning. Yeah, you never said I had a limited number of guesses. Well, I'm actually 45, almost 46. He waits for me to catch on, but I still don't know what he is getting at. And Burke's life expectancy is 30. He says. Again thinking I'm going to catch on, and once again I am left wondering where this conversation is heading. I just give him a confused look. Look son, my time is coming. We saw that with when Snotlout took over, and we need someone to be ready to. He said with a frown instead of a grin. No. I interrupted him. I've been chief twice already and didn't like either time. I said angrily. All I'm doing is preparing you for when I'm not around to teach you how to be chief, he implored. But I had already walked out of the house. I was angry that he had tried to put that on me, and wanted to go for a flight on Toothless. But when I got to the stables he was asleep, so I realized I shouldn't bother him. I was about to go to the forge because that also helps me cool off, but realized that would be the first place my dad would look. So I skipped those ideas and decided to go see Rough Nut, Tindra and Ivan. I knocked on their door, and waited for it to open. Rough Nut opened the door and smiled, but then noticed my sour expression. Her eyes widened and she opened the door and motioned me in. Carry on with your conversation, I just need to hide from Stoic for a while. I said as I walked downstairs into the basement. It was a small room, not as large as the house above it, but big enough to store a few things like pots and grain sacks. Looking in the corner, I found a small three-legged stool that I pulled out and sat on. After a moment of sitting down there, I hear footsteps on the stairs coming down. I thought I told you to continue having your conversation. I said curtly. Yeah, but I can do what I want, she responded curtly back to me. Please leave me alone right now. I said, my tone softening. I'm not going to, do you know why? Because I'm your friend, she said kindly but firmly. Her mother came down the stairs and stood at the bottom step waiting for me to explain. So what happened? Ruff prodded when I didn't say anything. My dad gave me the talk. I said. You Ruff said, taking a step back. Do I need to teach you guys how to make moon tea? Tindra asked. Oh no, not that kind of talk. I said, embarrassed. Ruff calmed down slightly. He talked to me about when he isn't here to be chief. I said sadly. Oh. Tindra gasped. Oh, come here. Ruff said as she gave me a hug. Have you already had your rib-crushing hug for the day yet? She asked. Nope. Well now you have, she says, pulling back, hoping I'm smiling. I'm not. I'll go get you some broth. Tindra says as she walks up the stairs. Ruff grabbed another stool out of the corner and sat down next to me. You want to talk about it? Ruff asked after a minute. In a minute. I replied quietly. A few minutes went by until I spoke. He started by asking me how old I thought he was. What did you say? She asked. I guessed low because I actually didn't know his age. And after a few guesses he told me. Then he told me about Burke's life expectancy. And I was silent for a moment. And how he is far past it. I said gloomily without finishing the thought. Come here. Ruff says quietly as she pulls me into a hug. You already gave me my rib-crushing hug for the day. I say. Yeah, but I thought you needed another, she said, still hugging me. Thanks, for helping. I said. How did I help? She asked. Just being you, giving me hugs, listening to me. I said. I see Tindra walks down the stairs over Ruff's shoulder and sees us hugging. My face goes red at the look she gives me, the dreaded raised eyebrow. Maybe I do need to teach you guys how to make the moon tea. Mom. Ruff jumps away from me and whirls around, her face now bright red. Ha ha. I'm sorry, but Snotlout isn't the only person to notice, she says, handing me a bowl of broth. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Gothai can see, and she is half blind. I joke. You're in on this too. Ruff whirls back to me. Nope, just like making fun of you. I'll get you back for that, she threatens. Just like you got me back for the Lokadi sword prank. I said mockingly. Ruff starts sputtering because she realizes she now has to prank me twice because she never got me back for the Lokadi prank, except now she has to do it with me expecting it. I'm going to get you back extra bad now, she threatens. No you won't. You love me too much. I say, grinning. Oh ho ho. It is on, Mr. Haddock. I accept your challenge. Thorston, I say in a gloating manner. I left their house later that day feeling much happier than when I entered. I immediately got started on my prank. Several years ago I found a very sticky tree sap that had dribbled down the side of the tree and pooled at the bottom. This sap caused me to lose my boot because I could not get it out of the pool of sap. I hadn't noticed I had stepped in it till my foot slipped up and out of my boot, but my boot remained on the ground. I tugged and pulled at it for quite a while till I gave up. During my experimenting phase a few years later, I decided to see if I could get my long-lost boot unstuck from the ground. After a lot of trial and error I learned that warm water makes it less sticky. I was the only person that knew this about the water. So, for my prank I took some of the sap and put it on the handle of the Lokadi sword and waited till something happened. At the arena the next day Ruff couldn't let go of her sword. Every now and then she would try and do something but forgot that she couldn't let it go, and she would have a puzzled and angry look on her face. But she kept making excuses to our friends who kept asking what was wrong. It was hilarious to watch and even funnier when Snotlout grabbed her sword in a rage and he couldn't let go either. By this point Ruff couldn't make any more excuses and it was really funny to watch her and Snotlout bicker. After a few more minutes of this I decided to let them go by showing them that warm water dissolves it. Snotlout was only stuck for about 5 minutes, but we laughed for the following week afterwards. The next day though Ruff locked me in the basement in her house, but she had filled it with 3 dozen terrible terrors. She left me down there for probably 3 hours. It was hard to move without stepping on them, but after a while Ruff opened the door to find me sitting on the floor with 20 of them on my lap, and I had named about 2/3 RDS of them and had even had enough time to train one of them to attack. Sparky, he looked intently at me waiting for my command. Attack, I said firmly and pointed at Ruff Nut at the top of the stairs. He started flying after her and she ran back upstairs. I could hear Ruff throwing a chair at him. I walked up the stairs and walked behind Ruff, who was paying more attention to Sparky than me. I grabbed her in a hug from behind and squeezed till she stopped squirming. Hiccup, let me go, she cried. Nope, I said, popping the pea. Sparky flew up to Ruff and gave her a mini hug. Ruff looked shocked. What? You think I could teach one terrible terror to attack in 3 hours? I asked mockingly. Ivan walked down from upstairs. He looked at me still squeezing Ruff, looked at Sparky hugging her, then at the chair that was thrown across the room and upended, and then craned his head to hear the other 35 terrors downstairs. He just smirks at me. I'm not gonna ask, he says, grinning. I let Ruff go and she whirls around and slaps me with the full force of her centrifugal force, leaving me sprawled on the ground. Why? I ask, mock hurt. Because, she answered mock angrily. That's not a reason. I said, getting up. You never specified, she countered. But I never didn't specify. I retorted. But you never didn't not specify either, she said, getting in my face. Girls. Girls. You're both crazy. Tindra says, walking down the stairs laughing. We both turn our heads to look at her. I step back, spin on my heel and walked out of the house smiling. The next morning we prepared to leave for the Dragon Island again. The 5 of us went to our homes to pack up to leave later that evening. I was beside my bed kneeling on the floor with a large basket next to me. You ran off on me yesterday, he says matter-of-factly. Yes, I did. I deadpanned as I packed a few clothes. I wanted to have a conversation with you, he says. And I didn't. I said curtly, tucking a few notebooks into the basket. I am your father and chief, as such you have to listen to me, he said. Yeah, but you can't force me to be chief of the tribe. I retorted. I wasn't trying to, I was trying to talk to you about it, he says, trying to convince me. Fine then, let's talk. I said, standing up and turning to him. I want to prepare you to take on the chiefdom, he said. I don't want to. I said firmly. I didn't say you had to be chief right away, but I want to teach you how to be chief. Sorry, let me rephrase that, I don't want to be chief. Ever. I said sarcastically. I can't be chief forever, you know I will die, just as you will eventually. Pick someone else. I said. Who else is there? I certainly won't pick Snotlout or his father. You'll find someone. I say, turning back to my basket and putting a few pencils in. I already have, he says in a proud tone. I whirl around. Who? If you say me, I swear I won't ever come back to Burke. I say angrily, pointing my finger at his nose. He pauses for a moment. Well, he is a young boy, very smart. Loves to make things, and always pushes through when times are tough. He has a father that loves him, a mother that isn't here to love him, and a whole island of friends who love him. He can turn the most feared beings in the archipelago into nothing more than puppy dogs. Who do you think that is? I turn back to packing. Toothless. I say, just to spite him. Ugh. Do you have to make this difficult? Depends on your definition of difficult. It's you. Okay. There is no one in Burke who could make a better chief, he says proudly. You're here. I say matter-of-factly. Exactly, he says. What? I made Snotlout my heir. A good chief wouldn't do that. I would never have thought to make peace with the dragons. I abused my son. I belittled my friend's opinion. I lied to the council. He said sadly, ticking points off on his fingers. Dad, you don't have to name all your faults. I said, getting him to stop. Well then, let's list all of the good things about you. You are creative. You are determined. You are patient. You are kind. You are a good smith. You can persuade. You can lead. You are courageous. You are smart. You can negotiate. You can. I don't have any more fingers to count on, he said, smiling. This finally made me smile. Chapter 15, Death Wish Crazy. After a while we returned to the Dragon Island. As time on the island passed, I started to notice that Toothless could understand me almost perfectly, and that gave me an idea. A few weeks after dethroning Snotlout, me and Toothless were flying in the air above the Dragon Island. Can you understand me, bud? I asked. He nodded his head and turned it to look at me. You can understand what I say? I ask again to be sure. He nods his head again. I take a minute to think about that. Can you tell other dragons what I say? I ask him. He nods his head again. Okay, this is gonna sound crazy. I say, and he gives me a look that says, do I want to hear this? But what if we try to convince the Queen Dragon to be nice? I say excitedly. That's impossible. Rough sighs flying up below me on her zippy back with Tough. There is no such thing as impossible, merely improbable, I quoted my grandfather. Hey! He is turning into us. Tough exclaims excitedly. He is being crazy and speaking in non-answers, he says happily. Actually, I am quoting my grandfather. I say. Are you actually going to try and negotiate with the Queen? Tough asks. Yeah, I'm gonna try. I said. You're crazy. Rough exclaims. And so are you guys. I retorted. Yeah, but we are the good kind of crazy, not the death wish crazy. She says. That's debatable. I deadpanned. What's that supposed to mean, mister? Rough asks angrily. It means whatever it sounds like it means. I said, trying to hide my grin. You've been spending too much time with old Wrinkly. Rough sighs, shaking her head. You do realize that you guys do the exact same thing? I asked. Yeah, but we are different. Tough says. How so? I asked mockingly. Because we don't use mind games. Rough said. What happened to wanting to ask but being told not to ask? I asked. Don't ask. Rough said, grinning. But I want to. I say argumentatively. Then do ask. Rough answers, grinning, knowing exactly what I'm gonna say. See. You tell me to not ask, and then when I say I want to ask, you tell me to ask. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I knew you were gonna say that. Rough says, smiling. We continue to bicker as we fly. After a few more minutes we descend and land outside our little cave. How are you? Astrid said, walking out the cave to greet us. We're good. Rough replied. Just having some fun goofing around. I say as I playfully punch Rough in the shoulder. Hey! You're a lot stronger than you used to be. She complains. Yeah, that's not much of an improvement. I have the physical strength of a jellyfish. Astrid punches me to the ground. Or yuck. Why would you do that? I moaned. That's for saying my training didn't do much. With my build nothing you guys could do will make me much stronger. I said jokingly. We might need to have one of us with him at all times. Ruff says. He's crazy. Tough shouts and then cackles. Fishlegs and Astrid look at him warily. Me and Ruff just have matching bored looks on our faces. He wants to do something that will probably get himself killed. So whatever you do, don't let him go into the volcano. Ruff says firmly. Why do you have to babysit me? I asked Fishlegs. It was a couple days after Ruff and Tough caught me talking to Toothless about my plan. So Ruff decided that I was not to be alone no matter what I was doing. Whether I was in the forge making things or going to the bathroom, someone was no more than 10 feet away. It was really annoying, especially when I had to do something embarrassing like have to go to the bathroom whenever it was Astrid or Ruff's turn to accompany me, so I decided to make it less awkward and held my bladder till the shift change. You'll have to ask Ruff not that. Fishlegs said sheepishly. But can't you just let me go? I asked hopefully. No, Ruff would kill both me and you. I stepped out of the small outhouse we made. Can you at least give me 5 minutes so I can go to the bathroom in peace? Again you'll have to ask Ruff, he said. Fine. I conceded. Well, it's shift change, he said looking up at the sun. Do you know whose shift it is? I asked. I think it's Tough's turn, he said walking towards the cave. Yep, it is. Tough says walking out of the woods beside us. Ah, me and Fishlegs shrieked at the same time. Wow, you guys are so easy to scare, he says. Fishlegs storms off in the direction of the cave. Bye. Adios. Sayonara. Farvel. Tough called after Fishlegs. Okay, now that he is gone, who are we gonna prank and how? I don't know, I don't really feel like pranking anyone. I say. Well then give me a prank to pull because I have nothing to do, he whined. Why don't you go feed Astrid's chickens? I said, giving him something to do. He thought about it for a bit and then shouted. Great idea. And ran off towards the cave. I looked at him stunned, expecting him to have turned down my offer. Then I realized I was alone for the first time in several days. I ran towards Toothless knowing that I wouldn't get another chance better than this. I mounted the saddle and the two of us flew off the ground and beelined towards the volcano. It was a very short flight, but I still caught sight of Astrid sitting on a large round rock tending to her axe with a whetstone while her deadly Nada was nuzzling her for attention. I could tell the still unnamed Nada wanted her chin scratched and was getting annoyed because she was being ignored. Then I heard alarmed clucking, then we heard explosions. Astrid immediately stood up, alarmed. She looked to her dragon and mounted up and flew off in the direction of her chicken coop. We flew above them without them noticing and entered the volcano. We flew in and landed on a platform near the red mist in the bottom near the center. Toothless gave a small roar to what I assume was to request her presence. A moment later the massive grey head studded with small red spikes came out of the mist. It reminded me of the time I had fought the Zipley back in the training ring only about a month before. Was it really only a month ago that I met Toothless? With all that was happening it felt like it had been years since then. The dragon head looked around for who had called her, then her eyes locked on me and Toothless. She looked at us, she seemed neutral, for the moment. But that could all change in the blink of an eye. I looked at Toothless and nodded. We have come to negotiate, I said, and Toothless gave a series of roars and growls. The queen had a look between intrigue and mild anger. If we figure out a way to create food for you to eat instead of stealing it, then you must be benevolent. Once again Toothless translated my words into a series of roars and growls. The queen gave a small growl of intrigue but what felt like a large gust of wind to me. We can make sheep and yaks for you and can help the dragons fish, all you need to do is be nice, I said with Toothless translating. Then the queen turned her head to focus on me instead of Toothless and roared a few short times. I got the sense that Toothless made it clear that these were my words she was hearing. It also seemed that she now wanted to say something herself, and now Toothless had to figure out how to let me understand her. He thinks about it for a moment before he points one claw at the queen and makes himself look large by spreading his wings, then he points at himself and sheathes his teeth and then points at me. I believe she had asked who I was. I was surprised she even cared who the scrawny little Viking boy before her was. I am Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III, son of Stoic the Vast, first dragon trainer, rider of Toothless and friend to dragons. I said. Toothless seemed at a loss not as to what I said, but how to translate it. After a moment to think about it, he started growling and roaring. The queen looked at me. It seemed different. Friend to dragons, a large deep feminine voice rasped, echoing around the interior of the volcano. I whirled around trying to find the speaker. Toothless was shocked as well but remained facing the queen. After a moment Toothless overcame his shock and I was still trying to find the person who had spoken. Asterisk whack asterisk. I feel the metal and leather of Toothless' prosthetic tail as well as the scaly skin. I stumble a bit and turn around and look at Toothless. He gestures with his head towards the queen just looks at me. Then I hear a draconic laugh, but it is much louder and lower than Toothless. This time I hear it emanating from the giant head in front of me. You can speak?" I ask. Chapter 16 Mercy. All dragons can speak. My kind are one of the few who can speak Norse, the large head said. Who is Stoic the Vast? She asked. Stoic is my father and the chief of the hairy hooligan tribe. I said. You waver when you say father, she comments. I do. I said, not wanting to admit that how I was treated still hurts. Is something wrong? She asked surprisingly kindly for a giant dragon. No one liked me in my village. I was the village pariah. I said. Really? Why? When I was born I was smaller than the others in my age group. I was a runt. My name is Hiccup because I am a runt. Sometimes the runt is the most successful, she said, trying to change my sad mood. Not me, I blew up the village more than your dragons did. I said sadly. After a moment of silence, letting the truth hang in the air, I spoke. Will you accept my offer? I said, changing the subject. You have reminded me of who a queen should be, she said. Do you have a name I can call you? I asked. She seemed to be thinking about it but also seemed to be full of regret as well. My name has no word in Norse, but I guess the closest translation would be merciless, she said sadly. I thought about it for a moment. Merciless doesn't fit. In fact, you were merciful toward me. So what if I called you Merciful? Merciful, she said, testing it out. Do I deserve this name? She asked sadly. Not with your past actions, but possibly with your future ones. I said, thinking back to Astrid's letter. I will try. In fact, I will offer one better, a joint rulership between me, you and your Toothless, she said with a smile. As long as you continue to be merciful. I said, smiling. With your help and your friends' help I know I can be, she said. Wait, you know about my friends? I asked. Yes, your rider friends, rider of Gronkle, rider of Deadly Nadder and riders of Hideous Zippyback, she said. Those are your friends, right? She asked. Yes, they are. I said. As I said this, my friends came flying into the volcano. Astrid, Roughnut and Toughnut landed in front of me with their dragons growling warnings at the queen. Fishlegs continued flying, thinking it was safer than landing. The queen just gave them an amused look. You are in so much trouble, Haddock. Ruff threatened, facing away from me and staring at the queen. Are you trying to get yourself killed, Hiccup? Astrid asked, keeping her focus on the queen. Was this your crazy plan that Ruff warned us about? Fishlegs asked from above. Why so aggressive? Merciful asked, amused. Everyone was stunned, even the dragons. Me and your Hiccup friend were just talking, she said. Astrid was the first to come out of their stunned state. What were you talking about? Astrid asked defensively. We have made a deal and talked about our names. I said. Astrid whirled around and shoved her axe in my face so that the tips went around my chin so that I had to look at her or else I cut my chin. What have you done? She seethed. I believe he has just ended the war between our two species. Merciful said. You stay out of this. Astrid roared over her shoulder towards the queen. Toughnut came out of his stunned state next. Wait, does that mean no more exploding houses on Berk? He asked. Yes, it does. Merciful said, nodding her massive head. Ah, he whined. Hiccup, I told you not to go through with this crazy plan. Ruff shouted at me, also no longer stunned. Well, I'm a Viking, stubbornness issues. I joked. This isn't a joke, Hiccup. Astrid shouted at me, but it didn't sound like her voice, it sounded like my father's. It reminded me of the last raid when I had hit Toothless and my father berated me in front of the entire village. My face fell, I stepped back from Astrid's axe and ran away. I could hear Toothless crooning behind me, but I just kept running through the tunnels. I didn't stop running till my boots hit the water around the island. There my tears joined the salt water of the ocean. I can't do anything right. I said once my tears were all spent. I can't make a joke without being shunned. I can't even end a war properly. I said to myself. I heard a squawk from behind me. I didn't turn, I just stood so that the bottoms of my boots were in the water. Hiccup, are you okay? Astrid asked as I heard her dismount her dragon. I remained silent and kept looking out over the water. Hiccup, what's wrong? She asked again. I remained silent, worried that if I spoke my quavering voice would betray me. Hiccup, look at me, she pleaded. I stubbornly refused to meet her gaze, knowing that she would see the tear tracks on my face and think that I'm not a Viking. Hiccup, horrendous haddock, as your friend I command you to look at me, she said in a commanding voice. You can't command your friends, Astrid. I said. I was happy when my voice came out as a deadpan. You've done it before, she pointed out. 1. We weren't friends then. And 2, I said it as your chief. I said, still staring out at the water. Fine then. As your friend I ask you to look at me, she conceded. I finally turn away from the water to look at her, but I remain standing in the same spot. Astrid grabs me in a hug. Please tell me what's wrong, she said over my shoulder. It's fine, it's nothing. I say dejectedly. It's something about Burke, isn't it? She asked. I told you it's fine. I say, pulling away from the hug. No, it's not, and I want you to tell me. Fine. I said simply. She looked at me expectantly. Eventually she realized that I wasn't going to tell her. Hiccup, you said. She said dangerously. Yeah, I said I would tell you, I just didn't say when. I said slightly cheekily but also curtly. Tell me now, Hiccup, she said. I need a bit of time. I said. Then she stormed off. She didn't even fly away, she just walked away stomping, not even checking if her dragon was following. When I'm upset I like to sketch to calm myself, and the only new thing to sketch was Merciful, so I entered the volcano and called her. She rose out of the mist below and I offered a few fish I had brought. Hello young Hiccup boy, she said. Hello Merciful. I said. What have I done to be graced with your presence? She asked, smiling. I snorted. Oh, I'm just feeling down and wanted to sketch you, or your head at least. I said, cringing. You're cringing again, she commented. Yeah, I just don't feel happy. I said as I sat down on the rock ledge in front of her and began to sketch. Did you and your mate have a dispute? She asked. Ha ha. No, I don't have a mate. I said, laughing. Really? She smells a lot like you. And you, her, she said, grinning in a draconically mischievous way. I'm sure we all smell like each other, as we are all really good friends. And yet you and her had a falling out. Merciful mentioned. How do you know this? I asked, genuinely curious. My species has the limited ability to see through the past, present and future. This also includes alternate series of events and different timelines, she said. Wow. That is unbelievable. I said, looking up from my drawing. My species has many other unbelievable abilities and powers. You keep saying my species, what kind of dragon are you? I asked. I am a Sea Dragonus Giganticus Maximus, she said proudly. That's a mouthful. I said. It is. Most people just call us the Green Death, the Blue Death, the Red Death, depending on our color. To these people I could be any one of those three, as I am slightly greenish blue, almost gray, but have red specks running up and down my body. So you can have the honor to decide what to call me. I might just call you a Red Death because of all the red spines, because calling you Blue-Gray Death just doesn't sound right. Very well then. I shall be known as Merciful the Red Death. I'm glad you like it, and I hope you like this as well, I said as I showed her the drawing I had done. I drew her with only one set of eyes open and her jaws open slightly in a smile. I drew the coral-like crown on her head and even part of her neck with some of the red spines on it. I had her body fade out on the side of the page as I didn't have enough room and had no idea what the rest of her body looked like. For all I knew she was just a head. She looked at it intently. "This is supposed to be me, right?" she asked. "Yes, do you not like it?" I asked sadly. "I can't even draw a dragon right." I thought to myself. "No, I like it, but I'm a little confused as to where the rest of my body is." "And how did you get a mini-me on such a small piece of tree?" she asked confused. "Oh, ha. I drew your head on the paper with a pencil." I laughed. I flipped to a blank page and showed her the page and then drew a line on the page with my charcoal pencil. "And the reason only part of you is on the page is because, 1. I don't know what the rest of you looks like, and 2. I didn't have enough space." "Oh well, I could leave my lava pool so I could show you," she says as she reaches up with 2 large arms with large claws and uses them to hoist herself up. Once she is far enough out of the mist, large grey wings rise out of the mist and unfurl, then she beats her wings several times and then flies out the top of the volcano. I run through the tunnels to find her standing on the large pebbly beach. She has 4 legs each with 5 large claws on each. She has a long tail that ends in a club similar to a gronkel. She has large grey wings now folded up against her body. Her wings alone were probably 250 feet from her body to tip. She was probably 100 feet tall and almost 500 feet long. She seemed so much bigger than she did when she was just a head floating in the mist. I immediately started sketching her whole body. She was so big that I had to draw her head and neck on the right page and the rest of her body on the left. When I was done drawing her, I drew a few small rocks just for reference. After finishing, I showed her the drawing. And because I wanted to learn as much about her as possible, I drew a second sketch with tons of information on the sides, like about her 3 sets of eyes and how large her wingspan is and her length and height and how heavy she thinks she is. While I was drawing the second picture with all the extra information, she explained that she is native to southern places and it is much warmer there, so to remain in her preferred temperature she baths in lava. After I had finished the second drawing, I sat there feeling upset about my dad. I still haven't spoken to Astrid about why I was upset. "You should speak to your mate, that's not your mate," Merciful said as if reading my mind. "Maybe I should," I said. "You should make sure she knows it's not her you're mad at." "Never thought I'd be getting friendship advice from a living mountain who thinks my friend is my mate," I joked. "I never thought I'd be giving it," she said. Toothless walked up to us. "Wait, how did you know that I'm not angry with Astrid but someone else? You forget that this living mountain can see into the past, present and future." She laughed as she said this. "Right. I keep forgetting you can do that. You should go speak with her," she said. I looked at Toothless and he shook his back, gesturing with his head to get on. I mounted up and flew off towards our cave. I found Astrid beating her training dummy a lot more than usual. Her back was to me and she hadn't noticed me come in. "I told you I would tell you what was upsetting me later." "Well, it's later," I said. She whirls around to see me standing there behind her. "Should I be worried?" she asked skeptically. "I don't think so," I said. "That's not very convincing, Hiccup," she says warily. "Well then let me convince you," I said. Okay. I sat down on a small rock at the entrance of the cave facing the ocean and the darkening sky and patted a spot beside me. Astrid came over and sat down. "Just to clarify, I wasn't mad at you or how you said it, just it reminded me of," I said, not looking at her, not in anger but in embarrassment. "What did I say though?" she asked worriedly. "You got mad at me for making a joke," I said, cringing away. I know. It's a stupid reason," I said, raising my hands in a placating gesture. "But it's not you," I said. "It just reminded me of the last raid Burke had," I said. Somehow those few words made Astrid realize everything. She seemed to remember what she had said in the volcano word for word, and also what my father said after I inadvertently caused the night torch to roll down the hill. She seemed to remember the things said word for word at the same time. "This isn't a joke, Hiccup," she said, sadly realizing what made me upset. "When you said that in the volcano, I didn't hear your voice, instead I heard my father's, and in that moment I realized that my scars haven't fully healed, specifically the ones my father caused. I said sadly. I'm sorry, hiccup, she said sadly. Like I said, it's not you, what you said just reminded me of my dad. She was silent. I don't know why those words hurt me. It just felt like even my jokes were shunned, just like everything else related to me. I said. You're not shunned to us, she said. I know. But? She asked leadingly. But sometimes I feel like I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna learn that this was all a dream, meeting Toothless, becoming friends with you guys, defeating Snotlout, stopping the raids. I feel like I'm gonna wake up and learn that none of that happened, that it was all a figment of my imagination, that things go back to how they were before I met Toothless and you guys. But it's not a dream. You know why? She asked cheekily. Because you can feel this, she said, and then punches me in the arm. Ow. Why would you do that? I whined. To show you that this isn't a dream, she said happily. Chapter 17 New. Later that night I woke up everyone else. Guys, I wanna show you something. Watch, he is going to take us to a small cove in the forest with a pet dragon inside. Ruff joked sleepily. Nope, something better. I said. What could be better than blissful sleep? Astrid asked grumpily. You'll see, I said. I led them through several winding tunnels that went upwards. Eventually we got to the top and came out of a cave onto a small ledge near the top of the volcano. Up here the fog that blocked much of our view was much thinner and we could see through it almost perfectly. I sat down on the edge and gestured for everyone to join me. Astrid sat to my left and Fishlegs sat next to her and Roughnut sat to my right with Toughnut on her other side. We could see almost the whole island from here. I could see my makeshift forge far off to our right. Down below us we could see a lot of dragons sleeping, one of the gronkles even had a saddle, meaning it was Meatluck. We could also see Astrid's deadly Nada flying about like crazy, having the time of her life. I wanted to show my friends something, but I needed help. I had asked Merciful what time the sun rises and she came through. It wasn't a minute after we sat down that the sun started to come up. Because of the light fog that surrounded the island, the sunlight was broken up and we saw hundreds of individual rays of light hit the earth all over the island. And the five of us watched the sunrise together, the dawn of a new day, new ideas, a new way of life and a new world. The end.